the bots haven't kicked in yet. That's how we found it. Me starting this video recording right now.
Stream, I never even introduced this location, did I?
In 4 hours. 1,700.
I'm
And
gonna
when
do
I
that.
first noticed it, she had 250 views at 30 minutes.
In a moment, though.
That's insane. If you
We are in Irving, Texas.
What's up, Mom? I'm here. What's up?
And we live in a closet. Now we have a turtle bed. But we have dignity, believe it or not. And spunk and charisma and sense of humor. And I don't know, anger, I guess. Not much hope. No faith. But we'll see where we go anyway.
kicked in yet. That's how we found it. Me starting this video recording right now, she has 1,700 views in 4 hours. 1,700. And when I first noticed it, she had 250 views at 30 minutes. That's insane.
Enjoy Nice on August 1st,
like
2021.
subscribers. And just on those numbers, you would probably have 1,000 to 5,000 views in the first hour alone. Like at a minimum, right? Because you have so many fans, and YouTube, if you didn't know, YouTube doesn't send it out to all your fans, right? You have to turn on the notifications. So at least 10 to 20% of her audience would come in contact with her video, and then probably 5 to 8% would actually watch it, and, plus recommendations or whatever. But Whitney had 1,700 views after 4 hours. Now, many people will wonder why someone with 500,000-600,000 subs would get so little. Well, one theory could be that as she's view-buying views, she probably bought her subscribers too, because outside of that show with diner and dresses, I don't think there's anything memorable about Whitney Cummings, especially not her comment. There is one thing memorable about Whitney Cummings, that she dates that abuser boyfriend, Chris Cole. That's what I remember most when I think of Whitney Cummings. But anyways, content is key. And Whitney is always yacked out on Adderall, always all over the place. And her content is just terrible. Now, before we look at those numbers, and I will say, it would, I need it to stay between 17 and 1,800 because I have a feeling that her bots could kick in at any moment now. And when I exit out of this page, we're going to see a lot more views, and it would be hilarious. But just in case the bots kicked in, I took a picture and I posted it on my YouTube feed, and it shows that she had 250 or 200 something views within 30 minutes, just for proof, in case the bots kicked in. So, I just wanted to show you at the level of content and misinformation. I'm not just talking about that word they throw around in politics when something you don't do. I'm going to show you that Whitney Cummings absolutely has no fucking idea what she's doing.
What the fuck?
Someone must have said, my friend ate her placenta. I will tell you this, I do know it's true that at these big fancy dinners, someone's always talking about eating her placenta. Rich people love it. When I was pregnant,
So Whitney knows a whole bunch of people that like to eat baby parts, which makes me wonder who are you hanging out with. And if you didn't know, Whitney Cummings is in the Epstein files, and Jeffrey asked, I think that, I can't remember her name, it starts with a K, but that woman he was engaged to or was a longtime girlfriend, I think she hung out with Whitney. But Jeffrey said in the Epstein files, have Whitney show you her coming trick. There's a special trick that Epstein knows on how Whitney comes. Now, she just admitted that she goes to dinner where people talk about eating placentas. Now, I know in some traditions you put it in the fridge or whatever. Okay, to me, that's just weird. I'm good. But we just want to throw that out there because I know somebody will in the comments that some people do engage. But let's hear her out. I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Yeah. Truly, any woman I ran into that had a G-Wagon was like, are you going to eat your placenta? I was like, no, I'm not. It's a bag of poison. There's some kind of law in California that if you eat your placenta, you legally have to tell 12 people a day about it. So Epstein heard this somewhere and went, oh, yeah, placenta. You know what? I really am looking to donate to a women's obstetrics unit at every hospital that's not California, where they're not eating them, where they throw them away. Okay? And look, at all these hospitals, I'm sure there's nurses that need to make some extra money. And he goes in, he's like, I'll hit your Venmo. You throw some extra placentas. They were going to go to the trash. How about just throw them into an empty Theranos machine? I do feel like a lot of hospitals still have a lot of like Theranos machines that don't work. They just use them as like Tupperware, whatever.
Throw them in a Theranos machine. Is it just me? But I particularly remember that the Theranos machine was for pricking your finger and then giving an analysis of your health. It said it could figure out what, like 50 or 56 different things, whatever. Okay, just a minor detail.
So drop the Theranos machine outside the back. You know, I'll have someone come pick it up, and then they're making smoothies. They're making stem cells.
Okay, I wasn't quite sure if that's what she was saying, but the Theranos machine literally didn't do anything at the end of the day, but what it was supposed to do is prick your smoothie. So, hey, I'm a stickler for details. Where's the correlation between smoothies and a finger pricking machine? Okay, all right, I'm just saying. I'm trying to tell you, there's not much up here with this lady. You know, she chopped up her face and the scalpel accidentally went into her brain and removed a piece of that too.
Smoothies, placenta smoothies, they're making cord blood smoothies, fine. That's not technically consuming humans, right? But we're comfortable with the idea. And then all these old monsters visit the island and they want this guy to like him. Here's a smoothie and they're like, I feel great. Oh look,
okay. So I haven't read all the files, but from my understanding, there's no evidence or anything to these placenta smoothies. Now, there is other things with eating, and I don't want to say them because I don't want, the video to get taken down. But there are other things. But this thing, there's no particular drink or smoothie or anything related to Epstein. Now, for me, what I get a feeling is she's doing what the rest of the Rogan sphere is doing and trying to dumb these things. Oh, they were just drinking stem cell smoothies for health and blah, blah, trying to dumb it down so people don't realize the horror that these individuals caused all of their victims. And, I know people want to protect people. People don't want to talk about these things. But guess what? Fuck that. When we need everybody to know just how horrible these people are, and everyone to be fucking pissed off that they're running our country. Because if we're not, they're going to keep running our country, and then they're just going to enslave us all. So I'm just not down with how the Rogan sphere is doing this. I think they're cowards. I think they're PDF protectors, and I think they're horrible people. If you're a PDF protector, why don't you go and just go away? Nobody wants you in society. No, you know what? You could be the first ones on Elon's thing. Maybe send them to Mars. We don't need them here. If you are a PDF protector, you're a horrible fucking person. If you're protecting Trump and Rogan right now, you're a horrible fucking person. There is no gray area. There is nothing subjective about this and my preferences on personalities and people. No, I don't need to see you. I don't need to know you. The moment you defend it, you're a fucking horrible person and you should be a... Stop right there. I almost said something really horrible about these people. And though it may be justified, did you see that long S that was about to come out? Anyway.
Not even aging. The reason psychopaths don't age, it's because they don't feel guilt or compunction. They don't make cortisol when they see a child scream. They don't age. So then these smoothies are, doing their thing, kind of famous on the island. They go to China. He's always in China. And they're like, dude, these smoothies. And they're like, dude, we kill bears just for the gallbladder and sharks just for their fins. I mean, we're not jerks about it. We don't go get them from the...
Is she trying to do a bit? Because none of this is accurate. Is she trying to, or did something just come out about this? I haven't found any information on it so far. And I just Googled it while she was talking a second ago. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of this. And as far as comedy, there's 10 million things to talk about. Right now, I don't think it's a good idea to make light of, to make fun of, to do any of this, especially when the victims haven't gotten justice. This is ongoing, and it's ruining our country. It is almost in everything in our country, in leadership-wise and everywhere else. We all know about the Catholic Church. They just never got to this scale of outing all of them. They just haven't been exposed like this. But it's just crazy. It's just absolutely crazy that she would make something up like this right now. Because you have to think, even though nobody is watching Whitney Cummings, even though nobody really, and it's true, 1,700 views, 4 hours. 4 hours. I started this video 12 minutes ago, and I probably looked at that probably 2 minutes before I started. That is what she's getting without her view bots. But there will be people that believe this instead of the actual horror. And we don't need any distractions. We need it all to come out exactly what they did, and then we go get us some justice. I just think these people are trying to distract everything. And hey, look, I will say it. If there is some big smoothie theory, I didn't see it, you can let me know. If it's somewhere in the files, you can let me know. I didn't do an extensive research, but a quick check, and there was nothing there.
Wild. We raise them. And so they don't know anything else. We just raise them for that purpose. We breed out of them everything that makes them an animal, that makes them to fight, because we would lose. And they just live their whole lives in a bin from the Container Store, so the rich people can live longer. So only so we can solve the world's problems. That's the only reason we want to live longer. Okay? The main one being, of course, poor people. Injustice. That's out.
Okay, that's enough of this nonsense. You can see why nobody is interested in it. If you're just going to tell something that is absolutely not true, there's no reason to watch you. Now, we're going to look at the views. Here's the moment. The view bot kicked in. And I want to say, if you don't believe me, I took a picture at around 30 minutes, and it shows she had 250 something or 40 something views. It's on my YouTube comment or feed, the feed where it shows the posts I make and stuff like that. And you can go look at it right there if you need proof. Because I would imagine, depending on the company, it could take anywhere from 30 minutes to, a couple hours to set that up. And it's been 4 hours, so I think the bots should be kicking in anytime now. But we're going to look at the views right now. The bots kicked in, folks. In the 20 minutes, she's gotten 6,000 views. 6,000. But look, her videos average 7,000 or 700,000. There is no way at 5 hours you would have this. If you're getting 700,000 views, I would imagine in 5 hours you would probably be at least over 100,000. But in order to have 700,000 views, you would have to be pretty popular, like to get those amount of views regularly. So she would probably have what, 200? You know, I want to say 3. It just seems like, because a lot of your views come in the first couple of hours. So she would have at least 20, 30% of that right now. Maybe 20. Yeah, maybe 20. Yeah, I don't know, but she would not have 7,000. You are in 5 hours. In 5 hours, you're getting 7,000 views. I mean, that's like the same amount of views I get, and I've got 13,000 subscribers. It just doesn't make sense. She's a fraud. Now we've got 56 comments. Mine's at the top. Oh, see, here's even more proof. 3 hours ago, I can't even break 1,000 views in 30 minutes. Only 255 views. That is the truth. Nobody but bots watch her videos. I decided to be a little snarky today, okay? Because you got to understand, most people don't get 1,000 views on their videos. The majority, I think there's 115 million YouTube videos, and only 8 to 10%. I think it's somewhere in that range. I know it's at 10%, but it could be 8. Only get 1,000 subscribers. Only 8 to 10% of all people, all channels on YouTube get 1,000 subscribers. I know people that have been doing this for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and they don't even have 200 subscribers. Point is it's really hard to catch people's attention, to catch the algorithm's attention, and to stay consistent enough that people want to come back and watch. If you can do that, most likely you'll get above those 1,000 subs and you'll be somewhat successful. I mean, if you're above 1,000 subs, you're successful at YouTube, because most people can't do it. And to get 1,000 views, most people don't even break 100, 200, 500 views. Okay, now I'll get to my point. Point is it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of looking at yourself. It takes a lot of consistency. And when people do this shit, look at that. Just now, it went up another 1,000 views. The bots have kicked in, folks. Is when people do this, they're taking shortcuts. They're not putting in the hard work. And really, there's really no point to do this other than to dupe your advertisers and make them look. But if there's anyone in the marketing department, they will check this and they will see the same pattern. And she did like 10 minutes of ads just before this. But like, I have to wake up every day. I have to scour through all kinds of shit to find stuff interesting enough that you might listen, right? I have to sit here and I have to record these things. And then I got to put it in Premiere Pro. And then I got to go into Photoshop and make the thumbnail. And then I got to go write the little fucking paragraph thing. And then I got to do all this work, which will consume a part of my day every single day, because I want to do this daily to make this consistent, right? Because that's the key to being succeed. And I want to take the right steps to succeed. And a lot of it is luck. A lot of it is luck. And a lot of people that are super successful are just gifted with a personality or talent or something. But all these people trying to do it the right way, and Whitney is here trying to fit the system, because it would make sense, right? I mean, you probably, to do this on every video, you're probably paying, what, anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month to view bot that amount, right? But then if you have 4 ads and you're getting 10, 20, 30, some people get $50,000 for ad views, you'll see that $10,000 is just a small investment to make thousands more. And that's probably why she's done it. Other than that, her channel is dead. Her channel is absolutely dead. And we want to look at here. We're looking at her page right here, and we'll go to her videos, and you'll see 751, 500,000, 640,000, 609, 811, 486, 734, 8.4 in 5 hours. There's no way in fucking hell you are hitting that number right there. You have to understand that a majority of your views come the first day. Now, you could get viral, you could get shared, you could get promoted on another platform, but just in general, without any promotions from YouTube or from other channels or magazines or entertainment sources, there's no fucking way you are hitting 700,000 and you have 8,000 views. This right here is fraud, folks. And I'm going to tell you what she's doing. And I just did tell you. She is buying views so she can dupe her advertisers, and her advertisers will invest tens of thousands of dollars into her. And if you have to pay 10 to make 50, I still made 40. I'm paying that 10 every time. That is a good $40,000 return on 10 grand. Bro, you got to bet large to get that in the casino or on all the sports betting apps the Rogan Sphere likes to promote, while at the same time saying gambling is bad. Now I want to just cruise you through here. Going back, I think this one was 7 days ago, 750. Look at that 264. That 264. 264 comments. You come over here. We're just going into 170 comments on 500,000. It makes absolutely no sense. Here's one from 2 weeks ago, 206, 640,000 views. You're an absolute train wreck of a human. I think she is. She dates an abuser. She obviously has an Adderall addiction, allegedly. And she's just terrible in general. She's just a terrible person. I'm going to tell you something. Let me give you a story. I was looking back on some video, and it was like high school in the early 2000s. And I was looking at it, and it was showing people. And people didn't have all this makeup caked on. They didn't have all these weird faces. Yeah, there was some in the 90s and early 2000s while I was growing up. But there wasn't this. And then you look at a video of today, and everybody's all messed up. Everyone's all chopped up. And I don't care if you believe it. If you're getting filler, if you're getting your lips messed up, if you're cutting it up, you're messing up the symmetry of your face. And that's why everybody can tell you have plastic surgery. And I think a lot of it is just pure insecurity. The chopping your face up, I think it's insecurity. I know people are going to get mad, but I'm sorry. There is no fucking way in hell. There's no way you're going to change my face to something I don't even know. I don't even know how it's going to look. Like, why? This is your face. How could you look at yourself if you... anyways, I just think she's covering up a lot of her insecurity. I want to go back and look at that original video really quick, see if anything's changed. Got a couple hundred more. I think the bots are slowly trickling in. The comments went up too. Oh man, people are all just talking shit. Look at this. Whitney has me rolling on the floor. Why? Did she poison you? Oh, Whitney. I just think it's the end of the road. Whitney kind of embarrassed herself a little too much this year, and she's obviously just full of shit. She's an insecure woman, putting all her insecurities on display and having to chop up her face. I'm sorry, I don't like plastic surgery. I think it's a horrible thing to do, and I would never be with a woman that had plastic surgery. Never. I tell my girlfriend, don't you worry about it, because I'm still gonna show up for you every morning and lay right next to you. I like you just the way you are. You ain't gotta do don't even worry about that shit. It doesn't matter what they're thinking, because I think you're beautiful. That's it. And men, tell your ladies, Tell your ladies, everybody's a little bit insecure, especially when they're in a relationship and they just don't know what the other people's thinking. Go out and tell your ladies they look beautiful too. And they don't need to scalpel up their face to be accepted. They can be accepted for just who they are. And that's the lesson we gotta know. I may not like you, I may make fun of you, and I may want nothing to do with you. And you could think the same of me. But here's the thing I'll tell you. Be who you really are, stop pretending, and enjoy your motherfucking life. Enjoy your life. Was that a cat one? Enjoy your motherfucking life. The best one. The Pimp Chronicles was the best one to say, when you eat your kid's cereal and it's on the top of the fridge and you're so goddamn high and he comes out the room and he said, where's my cereal, daddy? I don't know. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you. Please turn on your notifications, like, subscribe, and thank you for hanging out with me as we point out the biggest fraud in comedy, at least on YouTube. Don't stay.
Andrew Tate is a grifter, alleged human trafficker, and unfortunately, and this is true, a CoffeeZilla.
CoffeeZilla, who actually kind of respected but had a brain.
That is until I investigated him. Now he's having a meltdown and doesn't like me anymore.
This is my statement to you, Capsule. You're a nobody's scared of your fucking investigation. I don't give a fuck about your videos. I don't respect your journalism.
Ah, yes. The normal reaction for people who don't care. Melting down on Twitter about how not worried you are. We'll come to Tate's mental breakdown in a moment, but you should know this isn't Tate and I's first run-in. They didn't like it when I exposed his get-rich-quick scheme over a year ago, but this time Tate stepped into my territory. Said he was going to launch a crypto coin. So I immediately pointed out that over a year ago, Tate said that he didn't need to rob his fans. He wasn't going to launch a coin. Tate replied, imagine being such a great detective you can't detect a joke. Now, I'll admit that one stung a little bit. And when I did some research, I realized I had been tricked.
I even know what you're on crypto. No, I'll never launch crypto. I just like to do crypto Twitter. Because crypto Twitter are the biggest degenerate losers on the planet. They're losers. Crypto is the only scenario I can think of where you can make a whole bunch of money while benefiting societies.
Well, there you have it. I'm not going to apologize. I can admit when I'm wrong. Clearly, it was a joke. Tate would never actually scam people with a coin. Oh, turns out he did. Multiple times. And now is planning to launch a coin if you stay subscribed to his Get Rich Quick scheme. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to investigate it. But first, we have to catch up with the Tate brothers. What have they been up to besides getting arrested? Most people know the Tate from clips talking about the Matrix, politics, and feminism, but the two brothers have made almost all their money from something else. According to Tate, the way they got rich was webcams. Taking advantage of lonely men, they bragged about it.
And me and my brother, and eventually some staff I trained, would do all the talking. The girls were just pure losers. We were taking their money, all of it.
And then they broke into male empowerment, which is ironic, teaching dating, manliness, and of course, money. You could join Hustlers University for $49 a month, where the best hustle was students reselling the course to their friends, which actually got the Tates quite popular because they encouraged the students to post their videos everywhere. But with that popularity came scrutiny, as old clips of the webcam business started surfacing, and not everyone found it as funny as Andrew did.
PhD is a Pip and Hose degree.
Yeah, that didn't age really that well. Now, eventually, Romanian courts charged the Tate brothers with human trafficking. And although the Tates denied these claims, the PhD course almost perfectly described the lover boy method, which is a type of human trafficking. Most of the Tate's fans aren't even aware of these allegations because the Tate brothers have become experts at what I like to call the rebrand. This is where you completely 180 on a topic and pretend you never changed your mind. And this will be important later when we come to crypto. But watch for a second how Andrew Tate, a guy who made his money running webcam, now talks about the entertainment business while wearing a turtleneck.
Let's accept pornography is bad for a society. Let's accept that to be a fact.
It is true. Okay, why are they trying to destroy the society? Who are these people? What is their end goal? Is their end goal to children? Is their end goal 12-year-olds to sit there and watch and want to have
I mean, the balls to say What are they up to? What do you think their goal is? Bro, you are they. If there was a cabal, you're part of it. You admit to making millions of dollars, making the kind of stuff you're now claiming is ruining the youth. That is the skill that Tate has honestly mastered. And we're going to watch them use that with crypto as well. Either way, though, these criminal charges have put a lot of pressure on the Tate brothers, who've had cars, cash, and computers seized. And amidst all of that, crypto has become much more interesting to them. Not that the Tates are new to crypto, of course, but they've sort of fully embraced the crypto meme coin grid. And just like with the webcams, they do a bit of a rebrand.
My problem with crypto is that it instigated a culture, which I didn't like. I didn't like the crypto culture because the culture was based on getting in early, which, I mean, I guess you could argue is a skill, but to a degree it's not. Gambling, rug pulls, staying anon, hiding like a little coward in a hole, a little bit, and just being a degen, laughing about how you're a Once I decided I was going to fix it, I decided I had to come up with an idea that allowed people to make money from the things they should make money from, which is hard work.
There it is. The Tates are here to fix crypto. It used to be full of scams, rug pulls, and anons before Andrew Tate got involved, but now everything's about to change. So we're going to look at the coins that Andrew and his brother promoted, see what kind of fixing they got up to. Starting with Root. Honestly, this is your textbook Ponzi coin, exactly the type of thing Tate would call a scam a year ago. But now, he and his brother heavily promoted it over multiple videos. They even had flyers in their videos. And of course, during the promotion, the price did well. But when it was over, Roost is now down over 90%. Not only that, Roost's treasury wallet got hacked. So the community literally got scammed. And to make it worse, the guy who got hacked was anonymous. So remind me what Andrew Tate doesn't like about crypto again?
Gambling, rug pulls, staying anon, hiding like a little coward in a hole, a little
The same thing he promoted. But of course, Tate claims that he doesn't hold coins, he doesn't endorse coins, and he makes zero money. That is until other crypto promoters got tired of his riff and called him out for doing the same paid promotions they were doing. But you don't have to believe that guy. You can also look at the time Tate got exposed for trying to get Barron Trump to let him buy Donald Trump tokens at a lower price. In exchange, he'd pump it. So much for not owning coins, I guess. That was brought to my attention by Zach XBT, who also pointed out that Tate promoted something called Venom Blockchain. His brother talked about it on a live stream. Bitcoin, ETH, exciting stuff like Venom Network. And of course, that price is down as well. Tate also promoted Madonna token. And of course, that ended badly too. This stuff is such garbage. Here's another one of Tate's coins, which is down over 90% as well. Or you can look at this coin, Daddy token. You know, which makes sense given that Tate is sick of crypto being infantile, childish, and degenerate. And that's just the start of it. That's just the sludge you have to walk through to get to the main token. The main project Tate keeps promising, which is real world token. Another, if you want to believe Tate is promoting Tate coin, this is the coin he's actually behind. And tied to this Tate, it used to be called Hustler University, now it's called the real world. Now, this has always kind of been the biggest part of Tate's businesses, this get-rich-quick scheme. But the problem with monthly subscriptions is, of course, that people drop out. They leave. So the Tates have always tried tactics to get people to stay. Like they've said, Hustlers University is closing. It's almost full.
We do have a cap, so anyone who quits or leaves any time, if the cap is reached while you're not subscribed, you're not getting in. Don't get it. We're closing.
But now the new angle is this real-world token. Tate is promising a crypto airdrop to people who subscribe and stay subscribed to his monthly get-rich-quick course.
It's also very important for you people who think you can join for a month and quit for the world and just go back and no one. No. You have to stay inside, increase your rank, your power. Because if you quit and then you rejoin, you lose all your power points. So why would you lose all your power points? To save $49. It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so Tate's new plan is that you buy a get-rich-quick course, gain power points, you have to stay subscribed to keep your power points, and then they say they will pay you a percentage that their school makes.
The goal is that you can buy the token and own a percentage of the school. So imagine you start the real world, you start to make money, you focus on your tasks, then you can invest that money in the real world token and get paid every single month a monthly dividend from the profits of the school.
All right, I think I get it. So you got the people at the bottom, they're paying up into the course, into the school. Then you got the people with higher power levels. They're making money from people at the bottom with the coin, and then all that money flows up. It's just kind of this nice little pyramid scheme. Come to think of it, it is a little surprising that Tate claims to be working hand in hand with the SEC on this.
I am working with the SEC so that the real world token can be launched as a security.
Now, maybe that is all true, but maybe Tate actually has another plan.
SEC, come for me. I'm in Romania. There are no SEC in Romania. Scammers. We're out here doing what we want. I'm gonna pump a coin up. Make 10M. Peel it off.
Well, I'll be honest, that could be it too. Now, at this point, I had significant evidence of Tate lying about crypto endorsements, not profiting, and using his followers as a piggy bank to pump crypto. I figured now is the perfect time to approach Tate and get his response or comment, his side of the story. So I emailed him and his brother a list of questions about several meme coins they promoted, as well as the real world token. But instead of replying, Tate leaked my email address online and sent his war room after me, told them to email me that I'm gay. He even offered to pay money if they could prove they did it.
For every single person who can show me their email Coffeezilla and called him gay, I will buy daddy.
Wow, that escalated quickly. So let me just see if I get the plan right here. The plan is dislike and call someone gay, so the alpha male you like buys daddy coins for you. Got it. 800 emails later, a word cloud of Tate's war room will give you a sense of who these guys are. But I'll also share this email I got. It's not personal, coffee breaks. I really want Andrew to raise the price of daddy's coin. He says he's going to pump money into the coin. Trust me, it's nothing personal, but I bought a lot of the coin, and I have to do this, so please forgive me. I mean, you can almost smell the desperation. Get rich quick by hurling slurs at a journalist. But absurdity aside, I have to say this is disgusting. It's not normal to be mocking people based on internal characteristics. And even though I have thick skin, I will admit, some of it got to me. Specifically, Tate called me a DNG, a dork nerd geek. I'll admit, he hit a nerve here. Now, before I get 800 emails about being a nerd, I'll tell you, the reason I'm annoyed may not be what you think. Sure, I might use word clouds from time to time. I just couldn't believe who it was coming from. These two guys, I've seen their live stream. I gotta say, the Tates give me real competition in the dork nerd hate department.
Join the Capsule. Buy the courses. Then, of course, we will have kings, rogues, bishops, knights, who will all get a base allocation. This means that if you're a knight, you should work as hard as possible to become a bishop, to work as hard as possible to become a rogue, to work as hard as possible to become a king, because you know, the day this imaginary project comes true, you will be rewarded for all of that hard work in cold, hard cash.
Okay, let me start by saying there's nothing wrong with being a geek or a nerd. But anyone who has a council to join entitles people bishops, rooks, and knights loses the right to the majority. Newsflash, the Tate brothers are nerds. They're nerds on steroids. For legal reasons, I mean that figuratively. But haven't you noticed that they're obsessed with the sacred councils and chess, all things very much in the domain of nerds? Just because we try to slap a rented supercar in the middle of all of it doesn't mean we're fools. Anyone who says increase your power levels is automatically a massive nerd. But beyond this code, Andrew Tate's real opponent isn't even me, it's himself. He's the one who said horrible things about people who launch influencer coins.
There's no such thing as free money. For everyone who wins, someone else must lose. If you buy a coin for $1 and sell it for $10, someone will add $10. If his name goes down, the person will add $10. I do not want any of my fans to ever lose money in my name, ever, because I don't need money, so I refuse to sell out my fans some money.
I can't believe I'm saying this, but Tate was right about that. But now he's doing exactly what he ranted against, extracting money from his fans, promoting garbage that is now down 90%. Meanwhile, the exact people defending Tate blindly are the same people who are going to be holding the bags this week, wondering why they aren't rich. Of course, by then, Tate will have something new to sell them. And that is the story of Andrew Tate's crypto exploits. All right, give me a keynote ratio, please. It's been a long day, very
but they might be watching.
Hey, who's oh, you mean
No, even worse. The alpha males.
right. Okay, scratch that. I'll just have your finest whiskey then. Shaken, not whatever. Just give me that and a cigar.
No, okay. You're not being the allegations copy.
What allegation?
Well, I was gonna wait to break it to you, but the allegation that your nerd levels are also off the charts.
Oh, that's what you're worried about? Yeah, I'm a nerd. What's the big deal?
What's the big deal? Copy. These tape fans are gonna eat you alive.
No, they're not. I got these guys figured out. The one thing I learned while researching Peg, you can do whatever you want. You can be as nerdy as you want. You can even tell these people to their face that they're going to get seen. But don't tune it with a flashy sequence in a sports car.
You son of a bitch. I'm in.
No, you like the thing, yo. Shit, no, sorry.
Damn.
Don't forget to grab it. What, got a penis in here?
I investigated Mr. Beast, who was recently accused of making $23 million with insider trading and scams. I wanted to know people's stories, so I reached out to everyone, from researchers to crypto projects, even to Mr. Beast himself. And let me say, the story is more complicated than you think. I want to be clear. What Mr. Beast did is shady. What he's here is, did he cross that bright red line from shady to the legal scam? And contrary to what Twitter says, I don't think that's an easy answer. Instead, I think the answer will depend on you. If you love Mr. Beast, there will be an explanation at every turn and a scapegoat. But if you hate Mr. Beast, what I'm about to show you will seem unethical and like a clear abuse of fame for money. So already, this story is difficult, but I want to make you aware of two more things which matter. First, I have gone to Mr. Beast's team to try to fact check this story extensively, and they declined to fact check or comment on my many. They gave me a statement, which we will get to. Secondly, I have a bit of history with Mr. Beast. I interviewed and spoke positively about him in the past, but also his new co-founder is suing him, and his other co-founder threatened to sue him. So you can make of that what you will. As always, I just want to let you know where I'm coming from, and I've tried to get all sides of the story. We're going to start with the major allegations against Mr. Beast and build on those. They come from two sources. Firstly, an investigation by Soma XBT, which claims Mr. Beast made $10 million by backing low-cap crypto tokens, which are down 90%. And the second investigation comes from a group of 5 people who investigated Mr. Beast and found $23 million in profits from, quote, scams, shady deals, and his network. Now, there are a lot of crypto projects that go over, and I want to be clear. Some of these allegations, I agree, are bad. Others, I think, are actually worse than have been reported. And still other allegations, I simply disagree with them on. So we're going to start with what I don't agree with. According to the report, Polychain Monsters, or PMON, is a project which KSI promoted heavily. Mr. Beast did not. But Mr. Beast did get into pre-sale and make a lot of money. And thus, the conclusion is made it's highly likely Mr. Beast made investment from that insider information of KSI promoted deals. But there's simply no evidence provided of this. I have the same thoughts about JigStack, another coin KSI promoted. And the conclusion is, though Mr. Beast did not officially follow JigStack, in his network, KSI was involved in promoting Jigsaw from this information that these investors made. Here again, there isn't concrete proof. I asked the team who wrote this piece, and the lead author, Casper Vanthova, told me, quote, having known Mr. Beast was having a very strong connection with KSI, it's basically highly probable he was vested as a result of KSI. No concrete evidence, just going off of probability. But I'm going to say I don't agree with that, and I'm going to toss those probabilities aside. I think they reach too far. Instead, I'm going to stick with what we can prove happened. Luckily, the biggest claims in this report, the biggest moneymakers, are much better supported by evidence. Starting with Super. This is the project Mr. Beast is alleged to have made the most amount of money on, over $10 million based on a pre-sale of $100,000. As for evidence, we have leaked screenshots showing Mr. Beast telling Super's founder that he can do $100K. Then we have a wallet that both investigations traced to Mr. Beast, sending $100K to the pre-sale wallet. And then we have the same wallet getting millions of these Super tokens in a period of unlocks, which were almost all sold aggressively. Now, why is this bad? Well, Mr. Beast is obviously hugely influential, and he publicly associated himself with the project twice. Once on March 3rd, 2021, he responded to a tweet with eyeball emojis, and then he interacted a second time on May 12th, 2021. This is much worse. The founder, Elio Trades, had tweeted, there's a gym sitting there on the market at eye-watering prices set to explode during the DeFi Summer 2.0. Mr. Beast's response, Super. But what he doesn't say is that he already purchased a huge stake in Super at this point, and on the day that he's tweeting, he was selling tokens, allegedly. Not only that, he has been selling tokens and continued to sell tokens. In the 72 hours after the May 12th tweet, Mr. Beast sold about $200,000 worth of these tokens. And remember the context. He's responding to the founder of the coin discussing a gym at eye-watering prices that's going to explode during the summer. And Mr. Beast's response is the coin he's selling. So publicly, it's signaling, hey, Super is this undervalued coin, and privately, Mr. Beast allegedly sold. Now, I ran these wallets by Mr. Beast, as well as the accusation, but I didn't get a reply. Instead, I got a assembly lawyer statement from the spokesman, who I'm going to warn you is about to complicate things. Quote, these investments were made and managed in consultation with industry experts to ensure full compliance with all appropriate rules and regulations. The wallet is not owned or managed by Jimmy, but rather a fund led by respected and sophisticated managers. The fund closely evaluated and scrutinized hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, which resulted in several investments. Some have been more successful, others less, and others still works in progress. The fund's investment strategies apply the same rigorous standards as many other experienced investors in the field. Now, I have a lot of questions, but the big thing is Jimmy denies doing any of the trading or managing the trading and blames it on a fund. So I asked some obvious follow-up questions. What is the name of this fund? Who were the industry experts? And what rules and regulations were followed that allowed you to tweet about a coin while your fund is selling? I didn't get a response. It's worth mentioning the spokesman is Matthew Hilton, a well-known crisis management consultant. Thankfully, online there still are a number of clues we can follow to try to find the right person for this fund. The reason most people link Mr. Beast to this wallet we've been tracking is mostly based on a tweet by Mr. Beast saying he bought a specific crypto pump, which belonged to an account which goes by Wu-Tang Clan. People assumed, understandably, that this was Mr. Beast's wallet. But what is lesser known is that another account has also tweeted about CryptoPunks and has the same ties back to Wu-Tang Clan. A guy named Jason Williams. He's followed by Mr. Beast on Twitter, and he's the author of a book on Bitcoin, so he's a crypto guy. And I found Jason tweeting about another CryptoPunk saying, I hope you enjoy your new home, sold for 100 ETH. That sale he's talking about links back to the same address Mr. Beast does, Wu-Tang Clan. On YouTube, there's even more clues. Jason can be seen surfing wearing a Wu-Tang Clan shirt, and his brand name, Going Parabolic, happens to be owned by the same Mr. Beast wallet, Going Parabolic.e. So there's very good evidence that Jason Williams was also involved in this same wallet, which means that it might be true that Mr. Beast wasn't the guy buying or selling. It would be good for Mr. Beast and bad for these investigations. But just when I thought Mr. Beast might have no say in what this wallet did, I saw this podcast with Logan Paul, where Jimmy discusses CryptoPunks once again, and things get complicated.
So me and Logan both bought pumps. You guys probably seen on Twitter that he bought them at the same time, right?
Yep.
Gary pulled us that call.
Yep.
So have you ever told that story?
No.
Gary V, it's like 11 p.m. just out of nowhere, just calls me and he's like, "Yo, I got like 30 people to call hop in." He's like, "It'll be the best decision." You're like, "Just get it." I
Yeah.
said, "Okay."
Yeah.
And so I just joined the call, and I just see like Logan and I don't even know these other people. I don't know them, but-
Every heavy hitter you can imagine
Exactly.
that's worth $1 billion was on this one call, and Gary Vee is in the little corner, little square. He's going,
Crypto books.
it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be the next Facebook. We're all of us. We're like, okay,
Everyone's
Gary.
texting. I'm texting Logan. I'm like,
Is
Gary,
this
lost his
legit?
mind.
For all of us, you're like, yo, Gary's nuts. Yo, Gary was right again.
I bought.
Wait.
Yeah, I bought quite a bit. I don't want to say it, but
No, please.
I bought multiple ones. Yeah.
Are you double digits funds?
Double just shot.
Huh. Well, this clip is very interesting because Jimmy said he made the decision to get CryptoPunks based on a call with Gary Vee. But those funds are owned by the wallet we just said was controlled by Jason. So it appears sometimes Mr. Beast is telling Jason what to buy for this fund. Mr. Beast then later talks about selling these CryptoPunks and rolling the money into a new project. And once again, it sounds like he's in charge.
Well, I've heard of it.
What?
He's on to the next thing.
I bought a bunch of. So then I rolled the money into deep friends. Gary, the same thing. Called me. He's like, deep friends. I was like, I don't know, but last time I made money, sure.
I'll be honest, these clips to me make it difficult to assume Mr. Beast had no idea. He talks about CryptoPunks and Beefriends like personal investments. And on Twitter, he says that not only he bought CryptoPunks, he also tweets about loading up on Beefriends. But again, I have to say, it is also abundantly clear Jason Williams was involved. He says, "Hey Gary, thanks for the Beefriends gift go. It was a gift from Gary to Mr. Beast. I'm very thankful for it. He didn't have to send anything." So once again, Jason Williams appears to be involved and have something to do with the trading or management of Mr. Beast's crypto wallet, but we know Mr. Beast made some of the decisions. So of course, I asked Mr. Beast to explain himself if he had any say over the trading, but once again, there's no response. So now I want to turn back to Super. We know from leaked DMs that Mr. Beast and not Jason set up this pre-sale, and we know that Mr. Beast made the tweet. So now we have to guess. Here's what we know. We know Mr. Beast set up the pre-sale according to the leaked screenshots. We know Mr. Beast made the tweet, but we don't know whether it was Jason doing the trading of Super, or if he was doing the trading, did Mr. Beast know about it? Did Jason know about the tweet? These are the questions that ultimately matter, and yes, I reached out to Jason Williams for a comment. He didn't reply. I did, however, get a hold of Elio Trades, who is the founder of Super, and he insisted that Mr. Beast's tweet was not a part of a deal for promotion. But you should know, he also mentions how upset he was with how pre-sale investors sold their tokens, saying most of them sold, including Mr. Beast. So those are the facts. Mr. Beast gets involved in a pre-sale. For some reason, tweets at this project twice. One time on the day his fund is selling tokens, where he seems to imply that they're undervalued. In total, he's alleged to have made $11 million with this deal, according to the report. So yeah, that's really bad. Now we're going to turn to another allegation, which is about ERM, or Eternity Chain. There are some facts which are the same. There are others that are different. For example, instead of Mr. Beast setting up the deal directly, the team at ERM claims they never spoke to Mr. Beast. Quote, "We were speaking to his fund manager. And when I asked about the wallets selling allegedly over $4 million in tokens, they say, quote, Mr. Beast's fund was an early investor in our pre-sale. He had the same unlock schedule as everyone else. Were we happy with the way he sold? Definitely not. But legally, there was nothing we could have done. And then, just like with Super, they claim they didn't ask for a promotion of the project, but that Mr. Beast decided to comment once himself anyway. On March 9th, 2021, Mr. Beast responds to Eternity Chain saying, this one will be hyped. It's worth noting, once again, about 24 hours before saying this fund wallet purchased over $100,000 of EARN tokens, in addition to the pre-sale. Now, What is different about Super is that Mr. Beast's name was put publicly on the Eternity Chain's website. On their investors and partners page, you might be asking, well, which is it? Is he an investor or a partner? And the answer is both. He got into the pre-sale, and the Earn team also claims that he partnered with them for an NFT drop. Supposedly, it was a charity drop and a normal NFT drop. Now, the charity drop specifically did happen in association with one of Mr. Beast's projects, Team Seas, saying, quote, all proceeds will go towards cleaning up the seas around the world. This was early November 2021. Then the official Team Seas account posted on November 3rd, 2021, quote, what an awesome crypto collaboration in support of the team. Then the CEO of Eternity Chain, Nick Rose, confirms in Telegram that the drop is supported by Mr. Beast, saying Earn and ETH tokens will be accepted for the charity auction, which was slated to last 2 months. Now, the reason I'm sharing all of this is because 1 month into this 2-month charity auction on November 30th, 2021, the Rocket Fund or Beast Fund, whatever you want to call it, starts selling huge amounts of this Earn token. Allegedly, they sold over $2 million, while the charity itself was still going on. Now, I know that sounds horrible. It looks horrible. It is horrible. Although I have to tell you, personally, I don't think this was a master plan to pump a coin with a charity auction. If it was the plan, it was a bad one because the NFT auction was ultimately a flop. But do I also think it doesn't matter because regardless of your intention, selling tokens within a month of your 2-month charity auction is wrong, stupid, and unethical? Yes, I think that as well. Because in case you forgot, Mr. Beast is the charity guy whose name is on the website. It isn't a fund. It isn't a crypto rocket fund. It's Mr. Beast's branding. I even asked the Earn team about this, saying, quote, why did y'all list Mr. Beast instead of Rocket Fund in your partner's investors? Was that discussed? They say, quote, we listed him, Mr. Beast, as a partner, and quote, yes, they accepted that. So according to the Earn team, Mr. Beast knew or should have known that his name was on the line for this investment and partnership. And yet, this fund, his fund, whatever you want to call it, sold tokens 1 month after starting a 2-month NFT auction for a charity. To be fair again, though, it's hard to oversell how bad this NFT auction did. I found only one NFT that appears to have sold here, but the bids were made in the Earn token, which the fund was selling. And the actual sale of the NFT didn't happen until after the fund sold in November 30th. The transfer happened December 23rd. So, of course, I went to Mr. Beast directly to answer this, see if there was some more context they could provide. There was no response other than the statement we've already read from Mr. Beast that he did not control the trading. Though again, that isn't a really satisfying answer because we've established Mr. Beast would sometimes direct what to buy and sell to this fund, like crypto funds. Personally, like I said, I don't think this was a pre-planned scheme. But regardless of intention, if you're the charity guy, you support a charity, it flops while your fund makes millions of dollars in profits because it's selling the same Earn token people could bid on the charity with. That just is awful. And you should feel awful about it. Look, now I want to move on from that to talking about our final token, XTech. This is a token you may remember from our investigation into Mr. Beast's business partner, KSI. But unlike KSI, Mr. Beast was not promoting it a lot on Twitter. In fact, the only reason we know Mr. Beast was in the pre-sale is that there were several articles about it, bragging about that fact. Once again, Mr. Beast's name was used to promote this instead of the fund itself. And internally to investors, I have to say, this built up a lot of excitement, not just because Mr. Beast is a huge name, but because XCAD had what's called creator tokens. So the idea to some investors is that, well, if they're investing, Mr. Beast and KSI, what if they were ever to launch creator tokens? That would be massive. And I bring this up because some people might ask, like, what do these affiliations, how do they impact people buying these projects? And the answer from what I've seen is they actually do impact it quite a lot because people are anticipating like further involvement and also the idea is like they must not be investing unless they're long-term holders. You can see this in the Telegram chat. It became so common that in the XCAT community, one of the admins said, after we go again, another community member asking if there's any possibility of a Mr. Beast KSI token. And meanwhile, by the way, as that's happening, as investors looking for greater tokens and that they're in it, behind the scenes, something entirely different has been happening. Like the Super and Mr. Beast Fund sold a lot of their XCAT early in 2021 rather than holding their tokens. And this was surprising to even the founder of XCAT himself, Oliver Bell, who said they told him they were going to do the opposite. He tells me, quote, "Hey, so Mr. Beast reached out to me during our pre-sale raise. A group was set up with his team, and we had a call with his team, and they said they liked the concept. There was no strings attached to the investment. They did, however, want a lot bigger ticket than what I offered them, which I'm glad I did not fulfill. We discussed not just flipping this token, as this can damage projects if people have tickets. It was my understanding we were aligned on this. However, after listening to this extraction from the well, was heavy dumping from the wallet linked to Mr. Beast's team. I got in contact with them immediately and asked them why they were selling like this. Now, Oliver mentioned this discussion about flipping tokens and using line, the option to take the option services was with Jason. Apparently, Oliver was so and look, sorry to be a broken record, but yes, I reached out to Jimmy about this too. And once again, there was no reply besides the statement we read earlier. It's worth mentioning that I asked Oliver for proof of this message about ruining relationships, and he said the message had been deleted on Telegram. So who you believe here is up to you. Oliver also says, quote, "I don't think Jimmy has a bad heart or is a bad person. I think he has genuine interest in the crypto space, but I think the team that handles his crypto is completely clueless." And here, on this last point, I have to disagree with Oliver. I don't think that Jimmy's crypto team is clueless. I think they saw an opportunity to make millions of dollars with Mr. Beast's valuable brand, and they took it, and they did make millions of dollars. And along the way, they did some things that were shady. Whether or not you think they were also illegal is probably going to be shaped by our unanswered questions and where you fill in those gaps. For example, do you think Mr. Beast knew about the selling that was going on May 12th for the Super token? Why did he make that tweet? And then, do you think Mr. Beast knew about the charity auction and the selling that was happening on November 30th? And do you think Oliver Bell DM'd Mr. Beast and told him his crypto team would ruin his reputation? And if so, was that ignored? I hate to leave so many unanswered questions here, but I warned you, this was a complicated story. And a big part of the problem is the guy at the center of this story cannot or will not give more than a heavily lawyered statement through a spokesman who's a crisis management consultant. And let me just say, it's also frustrating that this statement takes zero accountability. Despite the fact Mr. Beast's team knew every major allegation that we're laying out here today, there's no mention of selling while Mr. Beast was tweeting about Super tokens. There's no mention of them selling tokens a month after they partnered with a 2-month charity auction. And because of that, this statement feels very hollow. I think to Mr. Beast and probably to his fund, maybe this is just business. You know, they set out to make a lot of money, and they made a lot of money. What's the problem, right? This is America. They might think this is the biggest Mr. Beast nothing burger since Mr. Beast burger. But look, honestly, I'd agree with them if they had done this crypto stuff without using Mr. Beast's name. But they want to have their cake and eat it too. This fund trades on Mr. Beast's name. As we've seen, they get in pre-sales based on his name. He tweets from his public account. And they're putting his name publicly on projects' website instead of a fund. But when things go south, suddenly, oh, Mr. Beast, what? No, no liability, just because he's not sitting there physically pressing the buttons. I don't think that's the way it works. Look, I want to close with the final part of this CryptoPunks podcast, because in many ways, I think it's a microcosm of this story. Obviously, I have to say, I'm not making any comments or judgments about the guy who's suing me. It's also in this clip. It's just coincidence. I am only talking about Mr. Beast's reaction. Because as Mr. Beast is talking about Gary Vee's great CryptoPunks call, there's a moment when the co-host says, hey, maybe instead of Gary Vee being a genius, maybe it's just the call itself that makes the market. And Mr. Beast kind of defends it. He says, no, that was February. You know, CryptoPunks didn't talk until the summer. And, you know, I never talked about CryptoPunks until this very moment.
Can I ask you guys a question? When Gary does that call with all these billionaires, and 8 months or a year later, everybody's like, Gary was right again.
Yeah.
is it possible that he's right because of the call? Do you know what I'm saying?
I think about that a
Like,
lot.
dude, he has all these
I think about
billionaire
that a
market
lot.
makers in the thing. He makes the call, makes the market. By the way, you look around at all the punk owners a year later, you're like, damn, it's all the same motherfuckers up on the call.
No, because bro, there's 10,000 punks, and there's only like 30 of us on the call. We can only own and do so much. There's still an entire market that's gonna happen regardless.
I can tell you, I don't think so because that was all back like early February. So like the things that pop up later, and every like NFT product is popping up.
I mean, make no mistake. Like having such influential people involved in projects, it can't hurt the ability for the project to
But like,
work. You know what I'm
if
saying?
95%, you know, I've never talked about.
Yeah, but that last part isn't quite true. The reason we're all here is Mr. Beast tweeted about CryptoPunks the same day he bought them back in February of 2021. That's how he found his wallet, even though we now know someone else was involved too. And it would apply the same level of scrutiny to many of the investments we've talked about. Was it the genius of Jason Williams, Mr. Beast, or this fund that made them tens of millions of dollars? Maybe. Or was it the fact that the name they brought to the table was Mr. Beast, one of the most influential and valuable brands in the world? And that's what got them different deals. That's what got them large eyeballs. That's what made it so valuable to have his name on these websites. And maybe that's what made the market. Ultimately, I think it's for you to decide.
The famous live streamer Ice Poseidon just scammed his followers for up to $500,000, and I'm going to prove it. He personally profited $300,000 by stealing money out of a crypto scheme that he set up. And when I confronted Ice Poseidon, who's better known by a real name Paul Danino, about this scam, he was shockingly honest. You want to keep the money that's not yours, that you took from the project, even though you failed to deliver.
I mean, I'm not really sure what you want me to say, but yeah.
I'm trying to get you to return.
This is my money. You guys know each other or no? I want to be a 250-pound podcast host with his ugly wife and just talk shit about. Oh, you don't know your wife. People jerking. This man beats his dog. Yeah, you're good, bro. Thank you. So I want to say I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for whatever I said to you. And I think it's the first time I apologize to you. Like, so we were on I got new presents for you. Just arrived in London. There's casinos everywhere. There's one particular casino that we have our eye on. If I get thrown out of there, I may just hop around and try all these casinos. I'd like to enter it. Okay, if they tell you to remove me, I'll go politely, I promise. Thank you. I'd rather play blackjack. The rules they have are very bad. Always take the later teams. The rules they have are also the games they have, the way they play the game, the way they deal with it. Players that never win. We did win. I got a little lucky just having some fun. But they accept me here, they accept my action here. They're open to negotiating limits with me. They also told me the biggest action you can find in private casino clubs in Mayfair. That's true. Just arrived in London. There's casinos everywhere.
They did this to other underrated girls and got them drunk and took advantage of them.
3 million Epstein files were just released. Except me. How did they forget about me?
Fucking asshole is making up lies again in this fantasy story.
The haters out there don't understand that they're working for me. If you only take a little bit of vodka, if you're brave, you turn on fire, you will running 45 minutes, you won't be able to stop you. I'm the biggest movie I've ever seen. His head is that little boy from when he was a child, never grew up.
Because you have to watch what this motherfucker has to say.
Your grandparents die, then your parents die, then you die, then your kids will die, and your kids' kids will die. This is my boy, so I'm not gonna stop. Everybody's going to stop.
He's just a fucking piece of shit.
I have millions of dollars, I'm a car, a house, I'm a wife. That was an absolute fraud. I was introduced to the true Benzuli, a monster. Ageless forcing into a by men. Forced her to perform S. We're all a bunch of kids having a good time drinking.
Why haven't you accepted any fight with a real fighter? I'm right in your backyard, homeboy. Accepted any fight with a real fighter? Because you're a bitch pig.
My goal was to get there for and I didn't very much.
Fake alpha is a disturbing trend on YouTube, and Ben Azule is the king of them all.
I got kicked out of multiple schools because fighting was my go-to.
So, I punched him in the nose. But no, instead of fighting back, he started crying and then ran towards the office.
He came on YouTube to replace Andrew Tate,
So I got on social media because of Tate.
but uploaded videos that no one would follow.
You crash your car? Yes! Beautiful. Great. Better one's coming. Girlfriend cheated on me? Yes! Beautiful. Now the better one's coming. Squeeze it. Pineapple juice. Every time someone sees me, what exactly? Was it pineapple juice? Was it orange juice?
And don't be swayed when he calls himself the descendant of earliest century BCE King Solomon,
A descendant of King Solomon. Mm-hmm.
because underneath his fake business claims,
You don't know for politics. He was 10 when he said
16 businesses.
6.
fake undercover agent claims,
We're every country got more than 10,000
No, King Deucezuli was not a special agent. He's just a fucking piece of shit.
and repeated stories.
Yes. Back in the 1990s, a man handshake was 118 pounds. In the 1980s, a man handshake was 118 pounds. Because of the woman, we didn't conceive one child in the Garden of Eden. Because the woman is very easily manipulated. But a woman is like a child, very easy to manipulate as well. That's why we got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. It's because she was manipulated by the snake, which was the devil. That's why we didn't conceive even one child in the Garden of Eden.
He's a registered criminal with a disturbing background.
They all took turns on her. She was a 15-year-old virgin.
Who still lives with his mother.
To this day, he still lives with his mother. He is not a self-made millionaire.
Well, we're gonna reveal more than what we saw. Like how this fake alpha predator targets the younger generation.
I'm a warrior.
Why is he running from Israel authorities?
He fled Israel because he was wanted.
And what secrets was he trying to hide from his followers?
I spoke to someone recently who was there at that party, who was a good friend of yours. And he had some interesting stuff to tell me.
If you type his name on YouTube, the top results will fill your screen with the cringiest tough guy alive, King Azule, the alpha male predator, or world's biggest douche. Now, these creators did not target him to steal some views. King Azule himself gave them the reason to expose his ugly truth.
I told you I used to work in counterterrorism for over a decade. Remember that? When we talked a long time ago? Yeah? No. Yeah.
The fake alpha was storming every podcast with his counterterrorism story.
But when they look at me and say, you work in counterterrorism, how do you know? Really? It's classified, my friend. You think you can find me in your fucking books?
And how he is one of the chosen ones to be part of this group.
Yeah, because there's more than 10,000 of us.
Fortunately, his profile caught the attention of one of U.S. Special Forces, a retired Green Beret known as American Thor. And when ran through his contacts, things began to speak for themselves.
No, King Hooooty was not a special agent. He's just a fucking piece of shit pathological liar.
Surprisingly, when King Azule watched this video, he called American Thor a loser on X.
Princess Azule said another loser, broke white boy that didn't even make it in the military. What the fuck, bro? An actual real Green Beret who has served with honor in the United States, and you're dragging his ass. And what is going on, bro?
In addition, he also shared these high-quality images in support of his fake secret agent story. Nonetheless, when American Thor shared his side of the story, the fake alpha had nothing to show in return. For example, he shared actual images from his mission in Afghanistan, which does not look photoshopped like King Azule.
The secret Israeli spy that did 10 years of counterterrorism was going to call me out. Alright, let's take a look at some pictures here. Alright, so I must have photoshopped myself into these pictures with my ODA here. Yes, there I am, my team in Afghanistan. Here we are receiving Valor in Combat Awards, Purple Hearts for some of my teammates that will not combat. Just doing, insert myself fakely into this military freefall jump somehow with my ODA. Just being boys in Afghanistan. Photoshop, must be. Alright, me with a bunch of Afghans in Afghanistan, must be Photoshop. There's me with some Mongolian partners, must be Photoshop. More pictures right after a combat operation in Afghanistan, must be Photoshop. Alright, me with my ODA, must be Photoshop. More Photoshop stuff for us to train. So you guys get the picture, you can scroll down, and you can just see me. I must have just inserted myself into all these pictures with the dudes.
Moreover, he also shared the actual 2018 medal signed by the Brigadier General of the United States Army.
Well, let me show you some of my Combat and Valor Awards, buddy. You guys can pause them if you want, read them on the screen, just give you an idea of what real counterterrorism operations can entail sometimes. Some things this dipshit would fucking have no idea about, obviously.
Then your grandparents die, then your parents die, then you die, then your kids will die, and your kids' kids will die.
Who would dare to follow him when his entire channel is filled with disturbing videos like this? Or how about mixing eggs in Coca-Cola as a perfect health advice?
When I want to treat myself to something tasty, I drink Coke. But I never drink Coke by itself. What I do is I mix it with my eggs. Eggs are extremely healthy.
And if you question his methods, he calls you dumb.
Because most of you guys are dumb as shit, and that's the truth. But most of you guys will not accept it.
And it encourages you to fight your fears.
Remember my quote. Never fear, become fear. So fear yourself.
Even people who knew him from high school can't stand him for 5 minutes.
I don't know how his women can stand him. I can barely stand listening to his voice for 5 minutes on YouTube.
He's gained 482,000 subscribers, targeting young kids with this advice.
Ladies and gentlemen, never get angry when you see your ex with someone else. Remember that at a young age, our parents taught us to give away our used toys to the less fortunate.
Or by showing his ring as if he's the King Solomon himself.
It's the famous quote from King Solomon's ring. You want to read it?
This too shall pass.
But when he traveled with mature people of his age, it turns out Ben is not only a fake alpha male, but also one of the biggest scammers on the planet.
Ben was an absolute fraud. I was introduced to the true Ben Azule, a monster.
This was discovered when creator John Bravo recorded this experience from this man who traveled to Israel with Ben for business.
Both Ben and myself went on a trip to Israel.
Now, Ben had a long-term habit of bragging about his businesses in different countries.
From there, I had restaurants and nightclubs in Israel and in Romania, and I got into the casino business. Just general advice. Look, I had a restaurant before. I had a nightclub before. I owned a casino before.
However, everything changed when they visited a restaurant in the Tel Aviv city of Israel.
At the restaurant Ben chose in Tel Aviv, everything exploded. Ben decided he was going to start talking about how he's spending his millions in Beverly Hills very loudly so that other tables could hear. But I started to notice he was sweating, looking around constantly, very suspicious behavior.
Suddenly, they were told to leave the restaurant.
We were told to leave the process or smash a bottle.
Now, this experience forced this man to find out more about Ben.
I reached out to a buddy of mine who is former Israeli intelligence, who actually was in one of those clear type units, to do a little bit of digging on Ben. And what I found was as disgusting as it was shocking. Ben was an absolute fraud.
And what he discovered was something he never witnessed before.
Was a carpet cleaner. He lived with his mother. To this day, he still lives with his mother.
I've invented the #1 mask in the world. And by the way, how much money do you claim to be worth? So today, close to 50.
He is not a self-made millionaire. He does not own a bunch of real estate to enhance his portfolio of other investments. And the instant I found this out, I cut ties with him, and I went into his WhatsApp group of all the people he's coaching, and I told them, you have been scammed. Get your money back instantly.
Most importantly, right after the restaurant incident, the fake alpha suddenly fled Israel by claiming about having some flu. But the actual reason behind the sudden escape was this.
He was not leaving Israel. The flu. He fled Israel because he was wanted by the brothers of a girl he had done very wrong to. I can only speculate what that thing is, but it was enough that they wanted to beat him within an inch of his life. In fact, the waiter was this girl's older brother.
Turns out his brother's sister was not the only one this monster targeted.
Each of the person that was mentioned by Ben. Oh, yes.
Dang, I want some ice cream.
I was not at the house party that they were at, but I do remember that time period where this happened, and it was big news around town.
This is Ryan Aria, who was in the same school as Ben and the same guy who punched him in the nose when he was 13.
So, I punched him in the nose. But no, instead of fighting back, he started crying and then ran towards the office.
Now, apart from their high school fights, Ryan also had a close viewpoint of the disturbing things Ben did. And as Ryan lives close to Ben's home, he discovered something about him that he never imagined.
I spoke to someone recently who was there at that party, who was a good friend of yours. And he had some interesting stuff to tell me.
The screenshot you're looking at is from the July 2008 crime. It is related to an intoxicated person that occurred in Sherman Oaks, California. And when you read the name of that monster, it's none other than the fake King Azule himself. Fortunately, the details of this case were discovered by John Bravo, who hid the full name of the girl and mentioned her as H.
They all took turns on her. She was a 15-year-old virgin. Very, very sad story. I'm going to show you guys here some of the documentation.
Now, before we show you what Ryan discovered, we want to read out a few statements from this case that describe the evil mindset of King Azule. At the party in Sherman Oaks, H, Catherine, and Paulina met defendants Ben and Dylan Azule, who were brothers. Dylan convinced H, Catherine, and Paulina to come to what he described as a party at his parents', defendants David and Rachel Azule's house at blank Buffalo Avenue in Sherman Oaks, and Ben drove them there. After being supplied alcohol, By defendants Ben and Dylan Azule, H was forcibly dragged into a bedroom by Ben, forced her to perform on him. After Ben had finished ravaging H, he passed her to his brother Dylan, who took her from Ben's room to Dylan's room. Ben was prosecuted as an adult. Dylan and Mayor were both charged as minors. Ben admitted his guilt in open court and was convicted on the charge of violating Penal Code Section 288A(b)(1).
I'll never kiss a girl at a club. I'll never kiss a girl if I don't truly like her and want to be with her. I'm very old-fashioned. I'm conservative.
You don't want to pick up girls at the club, huh?
Never did.
Surprisingly, after this fake alpha was exposed, he instead asked for an apology from the same girl. His reason for this apology was this.
She was seeing a psychiatrist a year before she even met us.
As this quickly resulted in a massive backlash.
And how dare you ask her to give you a freaking apology?
Ryan contacted someone who was actually present in that party, the day when that incident occurred.
I spoke to someone recently who was there at that party.
And that someone expressed exactly what everyone expected.
When he saw what was going on and what you, your bro, and Maor were about to do, he said, I don't want any part of this. And he left. He left the party. Because he saw what you guys were about to do.
When I was underage, I had a fight with my ex-girlfriend. She cheated on me. I got hella upset and I knocked her in the back of the head.
If we try to define this man in one line, then Ben is like a land hidden with disturbing incidents. Because the more you try to dig through his life, the more hate you will develop towards this man. And this time, it's about this restraining order that was filed by his ex against King Azule.
Imagine being such a red flag at age 17 and a menace that your ex's entire family, including a toddler, has to be legally shielded from. She literally asked the court to protect her entire household from teenage Ben, because that's how safe he made them feel.
Not to mention, he also has this insurance case against him by Fidelity National Insurance Company, dating back to March 2011. Maybe because of his parents' support, none of this might matter to him.
Your family has plenty of money. That's how you're living today, off your family's money.
Every video you post is in your parents' backyard. Stop.
Someone left a comment on the last video that stopped me cold. The comment asked a question so deep that I realized it deserved not just a response but an entire series. The question was this: does reincarnation always move forward in time, or can you reincarnate into an earlier life in a block universe? Read that again, because the implications of that question will dismantle almost everything we think you know about time, about death, about reincarnation, about the fundamental structure of reality. And if to answer it, we need to start with the most basic question. The question is how simply do you actually try to answer it? The question is consumed in the greatest kinds of physics, force and what is time? Everybody wants to know. Time is the thing that clocks control. Time is the thing that moves from past to future. Time is the thing that separates this time from today from tomorrow. Time is the thing that makes you older. The thing that turns babies into house and dogs into dust. Time is obvious. Time is the most obvious thing in us. Except to this night. Time is one of the deepest mysteries in physics. And the deeper you look, the more mysterious it becomes. Because every major revolution in physics has forced us to radically revise our understanding of time. And each revision has been further from what it says, further from what it is, further from what we think you know. The first framework, Isaac Newton, 1687. Principia Mathematica. Newton described time as absolute, true and mathematical time is itself, and for its own nature, close conclusion, without relation to anything external, time flows, like a river, at a constant rate, then everywhere, for everyone, regardless of what is happening in the universe. Whether the universe contains one particle or a trillion galaxies, time flows at exactly the same rate. Time is the stage on which physics happens, the unchanging background against which events unfold. Your clock and my clock tick at the same rate, always, everywhere, under all circumstances. This is the common sense rule. This is what you intuitively believe. This is what feels obviously true. Your watch ticks 1 second per second. My watch ticks 1 second per second. Time is universal. Time is absolute. Time flows forward at a fixed rate and carries everything with it from past to future, birth to death, beginning to end. One direction, one speed, no exceptions. Newton was wrong. Albert Einstein destroyed absolute time in 1905 with special relativity, completed the demolition in 1915 with general relativity. These two theories are not speculative hypotheses. They are the most thoroughly tested theories in physics alongside quantum mechanics. Every prediction they have made has been confirmed. Every experiment designed to test them is validated. They are the foundation of modern physics. They say something about time that defies every intuition I have. Special relativity. If you travel at high speed relative to me, your clock ticks slower than mine. This is not a mechanical effect on the clock. The clock is not malfunctioning. The gears are not slowing down. Time itself passes more slowly through. Every process in your body slows down. Your heartbeat, your metabolism, your neural firing, your aging, your thoughts, every chemical reaction, every biological process, everything. If you travel at 90% the speed of light, your time passes at roughly half the rate of light. 1 year for you is 2 years for me. If you travel at 99.5% of the speed of light, 1 year for you is 10 years for me. At 99.99%, 1 year for you is over 70 years for me. You could leave Earth at 20 years old, travel for 1 year of your time at near light speed, and return to find everyone in you dead old age. You would still be 21. They would be gone. This is not science fiction. This is measured fact. In 1971, Joseph Hafele and Richard Keating placed cesial atomic clocks on commercial aircraft that flew around the world. The clocks on the aircraft disagreed with identical clocks that remained on the ground. The disagreement matched the predictions of special relativity to an experimental error. Muons, created by cosmic rays in the upper atmosphere, travel at 99.94% of the speed of light. At that speed, time dilation extends their lifespan by a factor of about 30. Without time dilation, they would decay before reaching the ground. With time dilation, they survive the journey. We detect them at the surface. Their extended lifespan is direct experimental proof that time passes at different rates for objects in relative motion. Your phone's GPS system corrects for relativistic time dilation every single second of every single day. The GPS satellites orbit at about 14,000 kilometers per hour and sit in a weakly gravitational field from the surface. Both effects change the rate at which time passes for the satellite clocks relative to ground clocks. If the GPS system did not account for relativistic time effects, your position would drift by about 10 kilometers per day. The fact that your GPS works is daily proof that Newton was wrong about time. General relativity goes further. Gravity slows time. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time passes. This is not a metaphor. It is a measured physical effect called gravitational time dilation. A clock on the ground floor of the building ticks immeasurably slower than a clock on the top floor. The difference is tiny, about 10 to the minus 16 seconds per meter of height, but it has been measured directly using optical atomic clocks by the National Institute of Standards and Technology in 2010. The precision of modern atomic clocks is sufficient to detect the time dilation caused by a difference in altitude of just 30 centimeters. Time runs at a different rate on your head than on your feet. Right now. Measurably, a clock on the surface of the Earth ticks slower than a clock in orbit. A clock near a neutron star ticks dramatically slower than a clock far away. At the event horizon of a black hole, time stops. Not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. The equations of general relativity predict that the rate of time passage drops to zero at the event horizon. An observer falling into a black hole would experience time normally from their own perspective. They would cross the event horizon without noticing anything unusual. But an observer watching from a distance would see the falling observer slow down, redden and fade, approaching the event horizon asymptotically, but never crossing it. From the outside perspective, the fall takes forever. Time at the event horizon relative to a distant observer has stopped completely. This is already extraordinary. Time is not absolute. Time is not universal. Time depends on velocity and gravity. Different observers experience time at genuinely different rates, and neither is wrong. Your 1 second and my 1 second are not the same length if we are moving relative to each other or sitting in different gravitational fields. There is no universal clock. There is no master time, but all other time is approximate. But the deepest implication of Einstein's relativity is something most people have never heard. Something that demolishes the common sense view of time more completely than anything else in physics. Something that Einstein himself considered the most important philosophical consequence of his theory, the relativity of simultaneity. In Newton's universe, two events that happen at the same time happen at the same time for everyone. If a bomb explodes in Tokyo and a bell rings in London at exactly the same moment, then every observer in the universe agrees that these events were simultaneous. Simultaneity is absolute. The present moment is universal. Right now means the same thing everywhere. Einstein showed this is false. Two events that are simultaneous for one observer and not simultaneous for another observer, moving at a different velocity. There is no universal moment. There is no absolute present moment. What counts as now for you is different from what counts as now for me if we are moving relative to each other. And neither of us is wrong. Both perspectives are equally valid. There is no fact of the matter about which events are happening right now across the universe. The present is not a universal slice through reality. The present is observer-dependent, relative, personal. This is not a philosophical interpretation. This is a mathematical consequence of the Lorentz transformations that are the foundation of special relativity. It has been confirmed by every experiment ever conducted. It is as firmly established as any fact in physics, and it leads directly to the block universe. The argument is straightforward. If there is no universal present moment, then you cannot divide reality into the past, which has already happened and is fixed, the present, which is happening now, and the future, which has not happened yet. Because what counts as present depends on the observer. My present includes events that are in your future. Your present includes events that are in my past. If my present is real, and your present is real, and they include different events, then all events must be equally real. Past events are not gone. Future events are not unborn. They exist. All of them. Always. This is the block universe. The eternalist view of time, proposed in its modern form by Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's former mathematics professor, who in 1908 unified space and time into a single four-dimensional structure called space-time. In a famous lecture, Minkowski declared that henceforth space by itself, the future, which has not happened yet, is as firmly established as any fact in physics, and it leads directly to the block universe. The argument is straightforward. If there is no universal present moment, then you cannot divide reality into the past, which has already happened and is fixed, the present, which is happening now, and the future, which has not happened yet. Because what counts as present depends on the observer. My present includes events that are in your future. Your present includes events that are in my past. If my present is real, and your present is real, and and they include different events, then all events must be equally real. Past events are not gone. Future events are not unborn. They exist. All of them. Always. This is the block universe. The eternalist view of time, proposed in its modern form by Hermann Minkowski, Einstein's former mathematics professor, who in 1908 unified space and time into a single four-dimensional structure called space-time. In a famous lecture, Minkowski declared that henceforth space by itself and time by itself were doomed to fade away into mere shadows, and only a kind of union of the two will preserve an independent reality. In Minkowski's formulation, the universe is not a three-dimensional space evolving through time. The universe is four-dimensional space-time, a static, eternal block containing every event that has ever happened or will ever happen. Your birth is in the block. Your death is in the block. The dinosaurs are in the block. The pyramids being built are in the block. The last star burning out is in the block. All equally real. All equally present. All existing simultaneously in the four-dimensional space. Time in the block universe is not something that flows. Time is a dimension. Like space.
Interesting.
Like up, down, left, right, and forward, backward. You do not say that space flows from left to right. Space is just there, all of it, simultaneously. Time is just there too, all of it, simultaneously. The year 1066 is not gone. It exists at a particular location in the time dimension of the block, just as Paris is a particular location in the spatial dimensions. You cannot visit 1066 for the same reason because 1066 does not, but because you are located at a different point. You are here in 2026. 1066 exists. It is real. And that location is right now. That location in space-time. Within the is crossing the English Channel. The arrow is flying to Howard's eye. The north is charging. Orbit. Frozen in the block. Real. Existing. Not standard in time. Space-time follows directly from special relativity. This is this debate whether the block universe is the only consistent interpretation of relativity, but the mathematical framework of space-time as a four-dimensional block is the foundation of modern physics. General relativity formulated entirely within this framework. The space-time manifold, the central mathematical object, is a four-dimensional structure in which is a coordinate, not a flow. Einstein himself believed this when his life friend, Richard Bessel, died in March 1955. Einstein left Bessel's family that the distinction between past, present, and future is only a persistent. This was not Einstein being correct. This was Einstein stating what he believed physics demonstrated. Einstein died just 3 weeks after writing that letter. If the block universe is correct, then Einstein is still writing that letter, and Bessel is alive at his location in the time dimension. And so is every person, and every person who will ever live, all existing, all real, in the eternal, unchanging structure of space-time. Death in the block universe is not a dimension. Death is a boundary of your world. The four-dimensional world that is your existence through space-time is a beginning and an end, but both ends exist. The dead are not gone. They are elsewhere in the block, like a city you have left behind that continues to exist after your departure. Now, you might object, and you should object, because the block universe violates every intuition you have about time. It feels wrong, deeply wrong. Time obviously flows. The past obviously is gone. The future obviously has not happened yet. I remember yesterday, but do not remember tomorrow. I can affect the future, but I cannot affect the past. Things change. Things happen. Events unfold. Causes precede effects. The universe is not frozen. It is dynamic, active, evolving. The block universe says the entire movie already exists, every frame already real. But I experience the movie one frame at a time. I experience time passing. It's now a special. I experience the flow. How can the flow be an illusion when the flow is the most immediate feature of my experience? Projection is powerful, and it connects to the deepest unsolved problem of physics of time, the arrow of time. If the block universe is static and all limits are equally real, then why do we experience time as form and direction? Why does the present feel special? Why does the past feel gone and the future feel good? Why do we remember the past but not the future? Why do we age from young to old and not from old to young? Why does the arrow of time point in one direction? The standard answer in physics is the second law of thermodynamics. Entropy increases. Entropy is a measure of disorder of the number of microscopic configurations consistent with a given macroscopic state. A neatly arranged room has low entropy because there are few arrangements that count as units. A messy room has high entropy because there are vastly more arrangements that count as messy. The universe moves from states of lower entropy to states of higher entropy simply because there are overwhelmingly more high entropy states than low entropy states. It is not that the universe is driven toward disorder by some force. It is that disorder is overwhelmingly more probable than order. An egg can break because there are billions of ways for an egg to be broken, and only one way for it to be intact. A broken egg does not spontaneously reassemble because the probability of all the molecules randomly returning to the intact configuration is astronomically small, not zero. Just so close to zero that it has never happened in the history of the universe, it never will. Milk mixes into coffee because there are far more mixed states than unmixed states. The mixed coffee does not spontaneously unmix for the same statistical reason. This asymmetry, the relentless increase in entropy, is the thermodynamic arrow of time. The past is the direction of lower entropy. The future is the direction of higher entropy. We remember the past because our memory records are physical structures that were created by interactions with the lower entropy past state. They carry information about the past because the past had lower entropy and therefore more structure. We do not remember the future because the future has higher entropy, and our brain's recording mechanisms correlate with the lower entropy direction. The experience of time flowing is the experience of entropy increasing. The direction of time is the direction of increasing disorder. The feeling that the past is fixed and the future is open is the feeling that the past had lower entropy, which constrains it more, and the future has higher entropy, which leaves it more uncertain. But here is the critical point that almost nobody discusses. The point that changes everything about the physics of time and consciousness and reincarnation. The thermodynamic arrow of time is not fundamental. It is emergent. It is statistical. It is a property of macroscopic systems containing enormous numbers of particles, not a property of the fundamental laws of physics themselves. The second law of thermodynamics is not a law in the same sense as Newton's laws or Maxwell's equations or the Schrödinger equation. It is a statistical tendency, an overwhelmingly probable tendency, but a tendency, not a law. The fundamental laws of physics do not contain an arrow of time. Every fundamental equation of physics is time symmetric. Newton's second law, F equals ma, works the same if you replace t with minus t. Maxwell's equations of electromagnetism are time symmetric. Einstein's field equations of general relativity are time symmetric. The laws of the strong nuclear force are time symmetric. The laws of the weak nuclear force have a tiny symmetry through CP violation, but even this is converted to full CPT symmetry. but you also reverse charge inherently. And most critically, most importantly, most profoundly, for everything that follows in this series, the Schrödinger equation, the fundamental equation of quantum mechanics, is perfectly time symmetric. Let me say that again because it is the single most important fact for the question that started this series. The Schrödinger equation is time symmetric, completely, perfectly, without exception. If you take any quantum process, any evolution of any quantum system, and reverse the direction of time, the mathematics works identically. The equation does not know which direction time runs. It does not care. There is no arrow built into it. There is no preferred direction. Forward and backward are mathematically equivalent. The quantum world has no past and no future in the fundamental equations. It has only configurations related by time-symmetric evolution. The hour of time that you experience every second of every day, the feeling that time flows from past to future, the certainty that causes precede effects, the conviction that yesterday is gone and tomorrow has not happened, this hour does. What exists in the fundamental equation that governs the quantum world. It emerges at the macroscopic level, from thermodynamics, from entropy, from the special low entropy initial conditions of the Big Bang. But at the deepest level, at the level of quantum mechanics, at the level where the fundamental laws of the universe are written, at the level where reality is most accurately described, time has no preferred direction. Past and future are symmetric. The arrow is an illusion, a persistent illusion, as Einstein said, but an illusion nonetheless. This means something extraordinary for the question that started this series. If consciousness is quantum information, as the ORCHOR model proposes, and as the quantum biology evidence supports, and if quantum information obeys the Schrödinger equation, which is time symmetric, then there is no fundamental physical reason why quantum consciousness information must propagate only forward in time. The arrow of time that we experience is thermodynamic. It is emergent. It is statistical. It is not written into the fundamental laws. At the quantum level, where consciousness might operate, where microtubule quantum states might undergo orchestrated objective reduction, where the informational pattern that constitutes awareness might be encoded, the future and the past are equally accessible directions. The Schrödinger equation does not distinguish between them. The quantum information can evolve forward or backward with equal mathematical validity. The question from the comment was whether reincarnation can move backward in time. And the physics gives an answer that is both precise and unsettling. There is no fundamental law that prevents it. The Schrödinger equation does not discriminate between temporal directions. Unitarity conserves information regardless of the direction of time. If consciousness is quantum information, then the conservation law that protects it applies equally in both temporal directions. The pattern that constitutes your consciousness could in principle be conserved backward into 1200 CE, as easily as forward into 2800 CE. The thermodynamic arrow says you will experience time moving forward. But the thermodynamic arrow is emergent, not fundamental. At the quantum level where consciousness might be encoded, the arrow does not exist. But this is only the beginning, because the block universe does something even more radical to the concept of reincarnation, something that the original commenter might not have anticipated. If all moments of time are equally real, then the question is not just whether consciousness can transfer backward in time. The question is whether the entire concept of consciousness transferring through time is the wrong framework. In the block universe, all lives exist simultaneously. Your life in the 21st century, the life of a farmer in medieval China, the life of a weaver in ancient Egypt, the life of a physicist in the 23rd century, all coexisting in a four-dimensional block, all equally real, all equally present, none more now than any other. If consciousness is fundamental to reality as the quantum evidence suggests, if consciousness is not produced by individual brains, but as a feature of the universe itself, as panpsychism and IIT and Orchard and the contemplative tradition all propose in different ways. Then maybe consciousness does not transfer from life to life through time at all. Maybe the very idea of transfer assumes the flow body of time that Einstein said is an illusion. Maybe in the block universe, consciousness is not something that moves from one life to another. Maybe consciousness is the block itself. The fundamental awareness that underlies all of space-time. And individual lives are different perspectives, different windows, different focal points through which the consciousness experiences its own structure from the inside. You are the window. The medieval farmer is a window. The Egyptian weaver is a window. The 23rd century physicist is a window. All open simultaneously, all looking out from the same awareness. None first, none last. Because first and last require a flow of time. And in the block universe, there is no flow. This changes everything about how we think about reincarnation. It changes the meaning of karma. If all lives exist simultaneously, then karma is not a force that carries consequences from one life to the next through time. Karma might be a structural relationship between different lives within the block, a pattern of information that connects different world lines. The topological feature of consciousness space-time rather than a causal chain through linear time. It changes the meaning of death. Death in the block universe is not the end of consciousness. It is a boundary of one world line. One window closes, but every other window remains open, including windows that from the thermodynamic perspective are in the past. It changes the meaning of birth. Birth is not the beginning of consciousness. It is the opening of a new window, a new focal point, a new perspective that consciousness has of itself. The universe, according to Einstein, is a four-dimensional block in which all events coexist. Time, according to the Schrödinger equation, has no preferred direction at the fundamental level. Consciousness, according to quantum mechanics, might be woven into the fabric of reality at the deepest level. Put these three facts together, and the implications are staggering, not for some hypothetical future physics, for our understanding of reality right now, based on the theories we already have. The theories that are already confirmed, the mathematics that is already proven, and we have not even gotten to the experimental evidence yet. Quantum eraser experiments that demonstrate what looks like retrocausality. The Wheeler delayed choice experiments that show the present measurement can determine the past trajectory of a photon. The transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics developed by John Cramer, in which quantum events involve alpha waves traveling forward in time, confirmation waves traveling backward in time. The Aharonov, Bergman, Leibowitz framework for quantum mechanics treats past and future boundary conditions symmetrically. The evidence is there. Published in Physical Review, Letters in Nature and Science. Peer-reviewed. Confirmed by experiment. Debated by serious physicists at serious institutions. The common sense view of time in which the past is gone, the future has not happened, and consciousness moves forward on a one-way conveyor belt from birth to death is not supported by physics. Every major development in 20th and 21st century physics is undermined. Relativity destroyed absolute time. The block universe eliminated the flow of time. Quantum mechanics eliminated the arrow of time at the fundamental level. And quantum consciousness theory eliminated the restriction that awareness must follow the thermodynamic arrow. What replaces the common sense view is stranger and more beautiful and more terrifying than anything common sense could imagine. And we are just getting started. The Schrödinger equation does not care which direction time lies. This is a mathematical fact, but mathematics is not physics. The question is whether nature actually uses this time symmetry, whether there are real physical processes in which the future influences the past, whether retrocausality, the backward flow of causation from future to past, is not just mathematically possible but physically real. The answer, according to a series of extraordinary experiments, is yes. The double-slit experiment is the most famous experiment in quantum mechanics. Richard Feynman said it contains the only mystery of quantum mechanics. The setup is simple. 5 particles one at a time at a barrier with 2 slits. Detect the particles on the screen behind the barrier. If you do not measure which slit particle goes through, you get an interference pattern on the screen. The pattern of bright and dark bands that proves the particle travelled through both slits simultaneously is a wave. If you do measure which slit the particle goes through, the interference pattern disappears. You get 2 clumps on the screen. The particle went through one slit or the other is a particle. Measurement destroys the superposition. Observation determines reality. This is the standard quantum mystery. The delayed choice quantum eraser takes this mystery and makes it terrible. It takes the standard quantum weirdness and adds a dimension that strikes at the very foundation of causality. At the assumption that causes must precede their effects. At the assumption that the past is fixed and the future is open. At the assumption that what has already happened cannot be changed by what happens later. The experiment was proposed by Marlon Scully and Kai Drew in 1982, first performed by Yoon-Ho Kim and colleagues in 1999 at the University of Maryland. The setup is an elaborate and ingenious extension of the double-slit experiment using entangled photon pairs produced by spontaneous parametric down conversion of a beta-barium borate crystal. The photon is sent toward the double slit. After it passes through the slits, it encounters the crystal that converts it into 2 entangled photons traveling in different directions. One photon, the signal photon, travels to the main detector D0, where its position is recorded. The other photon, the idler photon, travels through a separate and more complex optical system involving beam splitters and mirrors that routes it to one of 4 detectors, D1, D2, D3, or D4. Here is the critical feature that makes this experiment unlike anything else in physics. The optical system for the idler photon can be configured in 2 ways, depending on which detector the idler photon reaches. If the idler photon reaches detector D3 or D4, it carries which path information. You can determine which slit the original photon went through by seeing which detector the idler hit. In this case, when you look at the corresponding signal photons on detector D0, they show no interference pattern. Particle behavior, 2 clumps. The photon went through one slit. If the idler photon reaches detector D1 or D2, its rich path information has been erased by combining the 2 possible paths in a beam splitter, making it fundamentally impossible to determine which slit the original photon went through. In this case, the corresponding signal photons on D0 show a clear interference pattern. Wave behavior, bright and dark bands. The photon went through both slits. This is already strange. Whether the signal photon behaves as a particle depends on what happens to the other photon in a completely separate part of the laboratory. But the truly shocking feature is the timing. The signal photon hits the main detector before the idler photon reaches the beam splitter, where its rich path information is erased. The signal photon has already been recorded. Its position on the detector is already fixed, already measured, already a fact about the past. And then afterward, the experimenter decides whether to erase the idler photon's rich path information and preserve it. And this later decision determines whether the already recorded signal photon is for an interference pattern or not. Let me say that again. The decision made after the signal photon has been determines the pattern that the signal photon's detection contributes to. The future choice affects the past measurement. The effect precedes the cause. The consequence comes before the action. Retrocausality. The results have been confirmed by multiple independent groups. The experiment is not controversial in the sense that the data is disputed. The data is clear. What is disputed is the interpretation. Many physicists argue that the delayed choice quantum eraser does not demonstrate true retrocausality, because the interference pattern is invisible after the idler photon data is used to sort the signal photon detections into subsets. You cannot see the interference pattern in the total signal photon data alone. You only see it when you select the subset of signal photons whose idler partners have their witch path information erased. This sorting happens after both photons are detected. The argument goes low. Information travels backward in time. The pattern was always there, hidden in correlations. The later measurement does not change the past. It reveals a structure in the past that was already present. This interpretation is legitimate, but it has a cost. The cost is accepted that correlations between signal and idler photons were established at the moment of entanglement before either photon was measured. The entanglement encoded the future measurement choice into the past event. The future is already written into the past through quantum correlations. This is not retrocausality in the sense of sending a message backward in time, but it is a form of temporal non-locality, a connection between the future and the past that transcends the ordinary arrow of time. The future and the past are entangled, correlated, connected in a way that classical physics says is impossible. John Archibald Wheeler proposed an even more dramatic thought experiment. Wheeler was one of the most important physicists of the 20th century. He coined the terms black hole and wormhole. He was Feynman's doctoral advisor. He worked on the Manhattan Project. He spent his later career exploring the foundations of quantum mechanics with a depth and creativity that few have matched. Wheeler's delayed choice experiment, published in 1978 and elaborated in 1983, asks a simple question. When do you decide whether to be a wave or a particle? In the standard double-slit experiment, you choose before the photon reaches the slits whether to measure which path information or not. If you measure the photon as a particle, if you do not measure the photon as a wave, but Wheeler proposed choosing after the photons already passed through the slits. The cosmic version makes this vivid. A quasar billions of light years away emits a photon. A massive galaxy between the quasar and Earth acts as a gravitational lens bending the photon's path. The photon can take two routes around the galaxy, left or right. If we set up our detector on Earth to measure which path the photon took, the photon will have travelled along one path, a particle. If we set up our detector to create interference between the two paths, the photon will have travelled along both paths simultaneously, a wave. We make this choice now, today, on Earth. And our choice determines what the photon did billions of years ago. Whether it went left or right or both around the galaxy, our present measurement determines the photon's past trajectory. This was confirmed experimentally in two landmark experiments. Jacques and colleagues published results in Science in 2007 using a terrestrial version with an interferometer and a quantum random number generator that made the measurement choice after the photon was already inside the apparatus. They demonstrated that the choice of measurement made after the photon entered the interferometer determined whether the photon exhibited wave or particle behavior inside the interferometer. The choice worked exactly as Wheeler predicted. The present determined the past. In 2017, the cosmic version was actually formed. A team led by researchers in Italy used light from quasars billions of light years away, lensed by intervening galaxies, to conduct a real cosmic delayed choice experiment. The photons have been travelling for billions of years. The choice of whether to measure which path or interference was made when the photons arrived at the telescope. And that choice now, in 2017, determined what the photon did billions of years ago with gravitational lens. The experiment confirmed Wheeler's prediction with cosmic scale separations. The choice made on Earth in the 21st century shaped the trajectory of the photon that began its journey when the Earth did not yet exist. Wheeler himself drew a radical conclusion from this. He proposed what he called the participatory universe, the idea that observers are not passive spectators watching a pre-existing reality unfold like a more movie. In reality that existed before any of it existed. We are participators in bringing being, not only the near, here, but far away. We live in a universe of participation. The measurable choices we make today participate in shaping the physical reality of the distant past. The universe does not have a definite history that we merely discover after the fact. The history is created retroactively in part by the observations made in the present. The past is not closed, not finished, not settled. The past is still being determined by what happens now. This is not mysticism disguised as physics. This is mainstream physics published in the most prestigious journals, debated in the most rigorous conferences, and confirmed by experiments. The interpretation is debated. The data is not. This connects directly to the block universe. In the block universe, all moments of time are equally real. The past is as real as the present. Wheeler's delayed choice experiment suggests that the past is not fixed in the present observation. The present participates in determining what the past was. In the block universe, this means the block is not a static pre-existing structure that we newly discover. The block is being shaped by observations at every point within it. Every observation, every moment participates in determining the structure of the entire block. Past, present, and future are mutually determined, co-arising, interdependent. The transactional interpretation of quantum mechanics, developed by John Cramer at the University of Washington in 1986, provides a mathematical framework for exactly this kind of temporal bidirectionality. In the transactional interpretation, every quantum event involves two moves, an offer wave that travels forward in time from the source, and a confirmation wave that travels backward in time from the absorber. A quantum event, the emission and absorption of a photon, for example, is a transaction that is completed when a forward-traveling offer wave and the backward-traveling confirmation wave meet and form a standing pattern. The transaction is atemporal. It does not happen at a particular moment. It involves the entire path of the photon from emission to absorption, including the future absorber sending a wave backward in time to the past emitter. Cramer's interpretation is mathematically equivalent to standard quantum mechanics. It makes the same predictions. It produces the same experimental results, but it makes the time symmetry of quantum mechanics explicit. It treats the backward in time confirmation wave as physically real, not as a mathematical trick, as a real wave propagating from future to past that participates in determining the outcome of the quantum event. The confirmation wave is derived from the complex conjugate of the wave function. In standard quantum mechanics, the wave function psi evolves forward in time. This complex conjugate psi star evolves backward in time. Standard interpretations treat psi star as a mathematical convenience. Cramer treats it as a physically real wave, and the mathematics supports this interpretation. The conjugate wave function is a solution to the Schrödinger equation evolving in the reverse time direction. It is as mathematically legitimate as the forward wave function. Treating it as physically real is not ad hoc. It is taking the mathematics seriously. Yakir Aharonov and colleagues developed a related and profoundly important framework called the two-state vector formalism, first published in 1964 by Aharonov, Bergman, and Lebowitz, and developed extensively in the decades since, particularly by Aharonov and Weber. The standard quantum mechanics, a quantum system is described by a single-state vector that evolves forward in time from the initial preparation. This forward evolving state encodes all information about the system's past. It says nothing about its future. In the two-state vector formalism, the quantum system is described not by one state vector, but by two. One, evolving forward from the initial preparation. One, evolving backward from the final measurement. The complete description of the quantum system at any intermediate time requires both vectors. The past boundary condition and future boundary condition jointly determine what happens at intermediate times. The past and the future jointly determine the present. This is not merely a philosophical interpretation, it is a mathematical formalism that makes specific predictions. Predictions that differ from those of standard single-vector quantum mechanics and different weak measurements. Weak measurements are a revolutionary experimental technique pioneered by Aharonov and Weidman, in which a measuring device interacts so gently with a quantum system that it extracts only a tiny amount of information without significant disturbing the quantum state. The result of a single weak measurement is nearly random, for when weak measurement results are averaged over many identically prepared and post-selected systems, they yield a quantity called the weak value. The weak values can be strange. They can lie outside the normal range of the measured observable. A spin, 1, 2 particle, can have a weak value of spin equal to 100. This is impossible for a strong measurement, but it is predicted by the two-state vector formalism that has been confirmed experimentally. The confirmation came in a series of stunning experiments. In 2011, Sachakoxis and colleagues at the University of Toronto used weak measurements to reconstruct the average trajectories of single photons in a double-slit experiment. The results were published in Science and showed for the first time what photons actually do between emission and detection. The trajectories match the predictions of the two-state vector formalism. In 2013, Dick Meyer and colleagues at the Vienna University of Technology performed a weak measurement experiment with neutrons that confirmed the predictions of the two-state vector formalism in a way that standard quantum mechanics could not explain without invoking both past and future boundary conditions. The future measurement result physically affected the neutron's properties at an earlier time. This was measured, published in Nature Communications, replicated. The implications are direct. If the future boundary condition affects the quantum system at intermediate times, then the future physically influences the present. And by extension, the present physically influences the past. This is not a philosophical speculation about the meaning of quantum mechanics. This is an experimental result confirmed by measurements in world-class laboratories. The two-state vector formalism works. Its predictions are confirmed, and its predictions require that the future participates in determining the present. What does all of this mean for consciousness and reincarnation in the block universe? The implications unfold in layers, each more radical than the last. First layer. If consciousness is quantum information, then consciousness participates in the time symmetry of quantum mechanics. The Schrödinger equation does not restrict quantum information to forward propagation. The transactional interpretation treats backward in time propagation as physically real. Wheeler's delayed choice experiments show that present observations influence past physical reality. Aharonov's two-state vector formalism shows that future boundary conditions affect present quantum states. The experimental evidence supports temporal bidirectionality at the quantum level. Consciousness, if it is quantum, does not have to flow forward in time. Second layer. In the block universe, consciousness does not flow at all. Flow requires direction. As a third direction. All moments exist equally. The experience of flow is the thermodynamic arrow experience from within the block. The thermodynamic arrow is emergent. At the quantum level, there is no error. If consciousness operates at the quantum level, then the fundamental consciousness, the consciousness that the filter model says the brain receives rather than produces, is not flowing through the block. It is present throughout the block, at every point, at every time, at every location, in four-dimensional space-time. Now apply this to the reincarnation question in the block universe. If all moments of time are equally real, and if consciousness is quantum information and obeys time-symmetric conclusions, and if quantum events involve both forward and backward temporal propagation, then the concept of reincarnation as a strictly forward-in-time process is a projection of a thermodynamic arrow onto a phenomenon that might operate at the quantum level where the thermodynamic arrow does not apply. In the block universe, reincarnation that occurs does not need to follow a linear temporal sequence. The quantum information pattern that constitutes consciousness could in principle become associated with a biological system at any point in space-time, forward in time from the perspective of the thermodynamic arrow, backward in time from the same, or at a completely different location in the time dimension of the block. The block does not have a preferred direction. The fundamental equations do not have a preferred direction. Only the thermodynamic arrow imposes a direction, and the thermodynamic arrow is emergent, not fundamental. This does not mean that we will reincarnate into the past. It means that the very concept of before and after, when applied to consciousness at the quantum level, might not be meaningful. In the block universe, your life and the life you might reincarnate into both exist. Both are present in the block. The relationship between them is not temporal sequence, but information connection, quantum correlation, entanglement across the time dimension of space-time. The way two entangled particles are connected across spatial distance, two lives might be connected across temporal distance, not because information traveled from one to the other through time, because they are entangled in the four-dimensional structure of the block. This reframes every piece of evidence from the reincarnation research in a radically new light. Consider the children who remember past lives through the lens of the block universe and temporal quantum correlations. Chennai Chumalaiwan in Thailand, who at age 3 did the life of a teacher named Hooooty Hooooo, who was shot while cycling to school. The name of the school, the village, the wife, the parents, the children, all verified. 2 birthmarks matching the entry and exit wounds of the fatal gunshot confirmed by autopsy records. In the standard reincarnation framework, these memories and these birthmarks are explained by a soul or consciousness pattern transferred forward through time, from the deceased teacher to the child born years later. The linear causal chain. Teacher dies. Information transfers through time. Child is born carrying the information. Birthmarks forms physical impressions of the previous day. But in the block universe framework, the teacher's life exists at one location in space-time, and the child's life exists at another location. Both are equilibrium. Both exist simultaneously in the four-dimensional block. The teacher is not dead in the block universe. The teacher exists at coordinates in space-time that are earlier on the time axis than the child's coordinates. The connection between them is not a causal chain running forward through time. It is a quantum correlation in the four-dimensional time. The information does not travel from teacher to child. The information exists in both locations because the two systems are quantumly entangled across the time dimension. James Leininger in Louisiana, who at age 2 described being a World War II pilot named James Houston Jr., who flew a Corsair off the USS Matilda Bay and was shot down by Japanese fire over Iwo Jima on the 3rd of March 1945. Every detail verified. In the block universe, James Houston Jr. exists at space-time coordinates in 1945. James Leininger exists at space-time coordinates in the early 2000s. Quantum correlations between the two lives connect 2 points in the block, not through a signal traveling forward through 55 years of time. Through entanglement in the four-dimensional structure, the information is non-locally correlated, present at both locations, not because it was transmitted, but because the two world lines are entangled. And here is the key insight. If the connection is quantum correlation rather than temporal transfer, then there is no reason the connection to respect the thermodynamic arrow. A child in 2020 could have quantum correlations with a person who lived in 1940, but equally, and this is the radical implication, a child born in 1940 could have quantum correlations with a person who will live in 2020, or a person who lived in 1200 could have quantum correlations with someone in 3500 BCE. Quantum correlations in the block do not care about the direction of time. They are symmetric. They connect locations in the block regardless of their temporal ordering from the perspective of the thermodynamic arrow. The arrow says time goes forward. The quantum correlations say the block has no preferred direction. This is what the physics allows, not what the physics proves. The distinction is critical and I will not blur it. The physics provides a framework in which backward in time and non-temporal reincarnation is possible. It does not prove that reincarnation occurs in any direction. It provides a structure in which the question makes physical sense, in which it is not ruled out by the laws of physics, in which the common sense objection that you cannot go backward in time is shown to be based on a misunderstanding of what time is at the fundamental level. The speculative leap from quantum eraser experiments and weak measurements to reincarnation across the block universe is enormous. The quantum eraser involves individual photons in carefully controlled laboratory conditions. Reincarnation, if it occurs, involves the integrated quantum information of 86 billion neurons transferred across macroscopic distances in space-time. The scale difference is staggering. The extrapolation is vast. Intellectual honesty requires stating this clearly, but intellectual honesty also requires stating that the extrapolation is in the right direction. Every piece of evidence for retrocausality or temporal quantum correlation strengthens the case that time at the quantum level is not what common sense assumes. Every confirmation of the two-state vector formalism strengthens the case that the future and past are mutually determined. Every successful delayed choice experiment strengthens the case that the present participates in shaping the past. The arrow of time that seems so absolute, so obvious, so unquestionable is an emergent macroscopic phenomenon. At the quantum level it does not exist. And if consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, then consciousness is not bound by it. The commenter asked whether reincarnation can move backward in time in the block universe. The physics answers this question in stages. First, the Schrödinger equation is time symmetric, so quantum information can propagate in either temporal direction. Second, the transactional interpretation and two-state vector formalism treat backward in time propagation as physically real and experimentally confirmed. Third, Wheeler's delayed choice experiments demonstrate that present choices influence past physical reality. Fourth, in the block universe all moments coexist, so the concept of forward and backward is observer-dependent, not fundamental. The deepest answer is that in the block universe the question of direction might not apply at all. All directions are equally real, all connections are equally possible. The arrow of time that makes backward seem impossible is a thermodynamic arrow imposed by the low entropy initial conditions of the Big Bang, not a fundamental feature of the quantum laws that might govern consciousness. At the quantum level, where consciousness might operate, where the informational pattern that constitutes your awareness might be encoded, the arrow does not exist. And in the block universe, where all moments coexist, where your birth and your death, and every moment between them are equally real, the very concept of direction through time is an artifact of the observer's thermodynamic perspective, not a feature of reality itself. The question is not whether reincarnation goes forward or backward. The question is whether the concepts of forward and backward apply to consciousness at all. And the physics increasingly suggest they do not. But the traditions had something to say about this too. Long before Einstein, long before quantum mechanics, long before the block universe, the contemplative traditions of every major civilization developed concepts of time that are eerily consistent with what modern physics carried. Cyclical time, eternal now, the dissolution of past and future in the present moment of enlightenment. They mapped this territory from the inside, while physics mapped it from the outside. The maps are converging. 4,000 years before Einstein wrote that the distinction between past, present, and future is a stubbornly persistent illusion. Before Minkowski fused space and time into a four-dimensional block, before the Schrödinger equation revealed that the fundamental laws of physics had no preferred direction of time, before Wheeler showed that the present participates in determining the past, before Aharonov demonstrated that the future shapes the present, before any of this, the contemplative traditions of humanity arrived at the same conclusions, not through mathematics, not through experiment, through the direct investigation of consciousness from the inside, through thousands of years of disciplined observation of the nature of time as it appears to awareness when the noise of ordinary thinking falls away, and the mind becomes still enough to see what is actually there rather than what it assumes is there. And what they found was that linear time is an illusion, that the past is not gone, that the future is not unborn, that the present moment contains everything, that the flow of time is a construction of the mind, not a feature of reality, that eternity is not a very long time, but the absence of time altogether, that the deepest level of reality is timeless. Every major contemplative tradition on earth arrived at this conclusion independently, separated by thousands of worlds, separated by thousands of years, using different languages, different conceptual frameworks, different metaphysical assumptions, and yet converging on the same fundamental insight. Time, as we ordinarily experience it, is not what it appears to be. Hinduism developed the most elaborate cosmology of time in the ancient world. The Hindu concept of time is cyclical, not linear. Time does not flow from a beginning to an end. Time cycles, repeats, turns like a wheel. The basic unit is the yuga. There are 4 yugas. Satya Yuga, the age of truth, lasting 1,728,000 years. Treta Yuga, lasting 1,296,000 years. Dvapara Yuga, lasting 864,000 years. Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, lasting 432,000 years. We are currently in Kali Yuga. These 4 yugas together form one Mahayuga, lasting 4,320,000 years. 1,000 Mahayugas constitute one Kalpa, which is 1 day of Brahma, lasting 4.32 billion years. 1 night of Brahma is equally long. Brahma's life spans 100 Brahma years. At the end of Brahma's life, the entire universe dissolves into the unmanifest. Then a new Brahma is born, the cycle begins again. The cycles never end. There is no ultimate beginning, no ultimate end. Time is an infinite wheel, turning through infinite cycles of creation and dissolution. The numbers are staggering in this scale, but the deeper teaching is not about the numbers. The deeper teaching is about the nature of time itself. The Bhagavad Gita chapter 11 describes Arjuna's vision of Krishna's universal form. Arjuna sees all of time simultaneously, all beings rushing into Krishna's mouths like moths into a flame. Past, present, and future warriors, already dead, already living, not yet born, all visible at once in the timeless vision of the divine. Krishna tells Arjuna that he has already slain the warriors. The battle has already been decided. Arjuna is merely the instrument of what has already occurred in the timeless reality that Krishna represents. The future is already present. The past is still happening. Time in Krishna's vision is not a sequence. It is a totality. Everything at once. Arjuna sees the block universe 2,500 years before Minkowski described it mathematically. The Mandukya Upanishad's description of Turiya, the 4th state of consciousness, is explicitly described as timeless. Turiya is not in time. Turiya is the ground in which the experience of time arises. In Turiya, there is no sequence, no before and after, no past and future. There is only the eternal present, not the moving present of ordinary experience that slides from moment to moment along the time axis. The eternal present, the present that contains all moments. The now that is not a thin slice between past and future, but the totality of reality, experienced without the filter of temporal sequencing. Shankara, the great Advaita Vedanta philosopher, wrote in the 8th century that time is Maya. Time is the illusion that makes the one reality appear. As many events happening in sequence. When Maya is penetrated, when ignorance is removed, time dissolves. The realized sage lives in what Shankara calls the eternal now, not a moment in time. The absence of time. The direct experience of reality as it is, without the overlay of temporal construction. Shankara's eternal now is structurally identical to the block universe's denial of temporal flow. Both say that the passage of time is not a feature of reality, but a feature of the observer's limited perspective. Remove the limitation, and time reveals itself as something very different from what it appeared to be. Buddhism approaches time with characteristic precision and radicality. The Buddhist analysis of time begins with a doctrine called Keshanikavada, momentariness. The teaching that all phenomena exist for only a single moment. There is no duration. Nothing persists through time. What you call a self, what you call an object, what you call anything, is a series of momentary events arising and passing away in rapid succession. The candle flame that appears to persist is actually a series of different flames, each lasting only an instant, each causing the next. There is no flame that endures through time. There is only a sequence of momentary flames, each of which comes into being and passes away in the same instant. This sounds like it contradicts the block universe. If everything is momentary, then time seems to be a sequence of arising and passing, a flow, an inherently temporal process. But look deeper, much deeper. Because the Buddhist analysis of momentariness leads to a conclusion that is far more radical than simply subjected time itself to this dialectical analysis in a way that anticipates modern physics by nearly 2,000 years. In the Mula Madhyamaka Karika, the fundamental verses of the Middle Way, Nagarjuna devoted an entire chapter to the examination of time. His argument proceeds with logical precision. He asks whether the present and the future depend on the past. If they do, then the present and the future exist in the past. Because a thing that depends on something else must in some sense be present where its foundation is. But if the present and future exist in the past, then they are not really future and present, they are past. If they do not depend on the past, then they exist independently. But nothing in Buddhism exists independently. Everything arises dependently. Nagarjuna then examines the past. The past does not exist because it has ceased. The future does not exist because it has not yet arisen. And the present cannot exist independently because the present is defined only in relation to past and future. Take away past and future, the concept of present has no meaning. It is like trying to define left without right, or up without down. The present depends on past and future for its definition, but past and future do not exist. Therefore, the present, which depends on non-existent things for its definition, also does not exist as an inherent feature of reality. Time is empty, shunya, devoid of inherent existence, devoid of self-nature, devoid of the independent reality that our ordinary experience attributes to it. This does not mean nothing happens. Events occur, experience flows, change is perceived. But the temporal framework that we impose on events, the division into past, present, and future, the ordering of events into a sequence, the arrow that seems to point from earlier to later, this framework is a mental construction, a conceptual overlay, not a feature of reality itself. Reality as it is in itself, Svabhava Shunya, is empty of temporal order. Events occur, but their temporal sequence is not intrinsic to them. It is added by the perceiving mind. It is conventional truth, Samvriti Satya, not ultimate truth, Paramatma Satya. It is remarkably close to what the block universe says. In the block universe, all events exist, but their ordering into past, present, and future is observer-dependent. The relativity of simultaneity, proved by Einstein and confirmed by every experiment, means there is no objective temporal ordering of space-like separated events. The ordering depends on the observer's velocity, on the observer's reference frame, on the observer's perspective. Nagarjuna arrives at a structurally similar conclusion through purely dialectical analysis of the concept of time itself. The ordering is empty, not inherent, not objective, dependent on perspective, constructed by the mind rather than discovered in reality. The Zen tradition within Buddhism pushes this insight to its most radical expression. The concept of Nikon, the eternal, now is central to Zen practice and Zen philosophy. But it was Dogen Zenji, 13th century Japanese Zen master, who developed the most sophisticated philosophical analysis of time in the entire Buddhist tradition. In his masterwork, Shobogenzo Dogen devoted an entire fascicle to Uji being time. His teaching is extraordinary in its subtlety, its paradoxical depth, and its stunning resonance with modern physics. Dogen argued that time does not pass like a river flowing from past to future, carrying beings along. This is the ordinary view, the common sense view, the view that the block universe demolishes. Dogen demolishes it from the inside through contemplative insight rather than mathematical physics, but the demolition is equally thorough. For Dogen, time is not a container in which things exist. Time is the things themselves. Mountains are time, rivers are time. The pine tree is the time of the pine tree. The bamboo is the time of the bamboo. Every being, every phenomenon, every moment of experience is a complete expression of time. Not a thing in time, a thing that is time. Time does not flow past beings. Beings are time expressing itself. And because each being is time, each moment contains the entire universe. The present moment is not a point on a timeline, a thin slice between the thick past and the thick future. The present moment is the totality of existence, manifesting as this particular configuration of being time. All past moments and all future moments are contained in its present moment, not as memories or anticipations, as the full reality of being time expressing itself completely in every instant. Dogen wrote that firewood does not become ash. This statement is almost incomprehensible from the ordinary perspective. Of course, firewood becomes ash. You burn it, and it turns to ash. This is the sequential temporal view. But Dogen says no. Firewood is firewood. It occupies its own position in being time. Ash is ash. It occupies its own position in being time. Firewood has a before and an after. Ash has a before and an after. But the before and after are within each being, not between beings. The firewood does not transition into ash. Both exist completely in their own being time. The relationship between them is not a temporal transformation, but a structural relationship. This is almost exactly the block universe description. In the block universe, the firewood exists at its space-time coordinates, and the ash exists at its space-time coordinates. The firewood does not become the ash. Both exist. The firewood is firewood at its location. The ash is ash at its location. The relationship between them is not temporal transformation, but structural relationship within the four-dimensional block. Dogen arrived at this insight through Zen practice in 13th century Japan. Minkowski arrived at it through mathematics in early 20th century Germany. The structural convergence is extraordinary. Islam presents a complex and multi-layered understanding of time that is far more sophisticated than most Western commentators recognize. The Quran uses two primary terms for time. Zaman is ordinary time, sequential time, the time of clocks and calendars and human experience. Da is a different concept entirely. Da is absolute time. eternal time, time beyond time. In a famous hadith, the Prophet Muhammad says, "Do not curse dark, for indeed Allah is dark." This identifies God with the totality of time, not with a being who exists within time, with time itself in its absolute eternal unconditioned form. God is not in time. God is time in its deepest nature. The concept of barzakh is particularly relevant to the reincarnation and block universe question. Barzakh literally means barrier or isthmus, a liminal space between two realms. In Islamic eschatology, it refers to the realm between death and resurrection, the intermediate state, the place where the soul exists after the death of the body and before the final judgment. The soul in barzakh is conscious. It perceives, it experiences, but it does not experience ordinary linear time. The Hadith literature describes the soul in barzakh as being aware of events across different temporal periods. The dead perceive the living. They perceive events that to the living appear to be in the future. They exist in a temporal modality fundamentally different from the waking experience of the living. But the Sufi philosophers, particularly Ibn Arabi, gave barzakh a much deeper and more universal meaning. For Ibn Arabi, barzakh is not merely the realm of the dead. It is the ontological level between the purely spiritual and the purely material. It is the realm of imagination, Allah al-Mithal, the imaginal world, not imaginary. Imagine, a real realm ontologically intermediate between the spiritual and the physical in which forms exist, but not as physical matter, as images, as patterns, as informational structures that are more real than physical objects because they are closer to the divine source. And in this imaginal realm, time operates differently from ordinary physical time. In barzakh, past, present, and future coexist. Events from different historical periods are simultaneously present and simultaneously accessible. The linear sequence of ordinary time is suspended. The soul in barzakh can perceive events from any point of history. The past is accessible. The future is accessible. The barriers that ordinary time imposes between moments are dissolved. This is not metaphor in the Sufi understanding. This is phenomenological report from practitioners who claim to have accessed barzakh through disciplined contemplative practice. Ibn Arabi's barzakh is structurally identical to the block universe experienced from a perspective that is not constrained by the thermodynamic arrow. In the block universe, all moments exist simultaneously. The thermodynamic arrow creates the experience of temporal sequence for beings embedded in physical systems with increasing entropy. Remove the thermodynamic arrow which death might accomplish if consciousness is no longer bound to a physical brain generating entropy, and the block is experienced as barzakh, all moments present, all events accessible, linear time dissolved. The structural parallel is precise. The block universe is barzakh, described in the language of mathematical physics. Barzakh is the block universe, described in the language of spiritual phenomenology. The Sufi concept of waqt, the mystical present moment, deepens this further. For the Sufis, waqt is not a moment in time, not a tick of the clock, not a point on a timeline. Waqt is the eternal now, in which the mystic encounters divine reality directly. Abu Sa'id ibn Abil Khair, the great 11th century Sufi master, taught that the Sufi is Ibn al-Waqt, the child of the moment, living entirely in the present, not the present as opposed to past and future, the present that contains past and future, the present that is reality before temporal analysis divides it into before and after. Ibn Atta'Allah, the 13th century Egyptian Sufi master, wrote that the Sufi lives in waqt, not the moving moment of ordinary experience that slides from now to now along the time axis. The eternal moment, the timeless moment, the moment in which past and future collapse into the immediate undivided presence of the divine. The great Sufi master Mansur al-Haraj declared Ana al-Haq, which can be translated, I am the truth or I am the real. This declaration, made in a state of mystical absorption, in which the ordinary sense of time itself dissolved, was understood by the Sufis not as a claim of personal divinity, but as the voice of the eternal, now speaking through a human being who had transcended the illusion of temporal sequence. Al-Hallaj was not saying that his ego was God. He was saying that in the moment of mystical union, the temporal self dissolves and what remains is timeless awareness. The awareness that does not experience time as a flow, because it is the ground within which the experience of temporal flow arises. Rumi, the 13th century Persian poet and Sufi mystic, expressed this understanding with extraordinary depth. Time, he taught, is not something external that carries us from birth to death like a river carrying a leaf. Time is a veil, the construction of the mind that separates us from the direct perception of eternity. When the veil is lifted, as it is in deep states of mystical absorption, the mystic perceives reality as it is, timeless, complete, all moments present, all events contained in this single eternal now that is the divine experience of the universe. Rumi wrote about love dissolving the boundaries of time, allowing the lover to perceive the beloved across all moments simultaneously. This is not poetic metaphor for Rumi. This is phenomenological description of an experience accessible through contemplative practice. Mystical Christianity converges on the same insight with its own tradition. Meister Eckhart, the 14th century Dominican mystic and one of the most profound contemplative thinkers in Western history, wrote that God creates the world now, this instant, not once in the distant now, always now, eternal. The creation is not a historical event that happened 13.8 billion years ago and ended. The creation is the eternal act of divine consciousness manifesting as the world in the timeless present. Eckhart taught that in eternity there is no before after, everything is present. The birth of Christ is happening now. The end of the world is happening now. All events are gathered in the eternal now of God's awareness. This is the block universe expressed in the language of 14th century Christian mysticism. All events coexist, no temporal flow, everything now and always now. The anonymous 14th century English mystic, the cloud of unknown, described contemplative practice as a method of entering the state. In the deepest contemplation, the practitioner transcends the temporal mind and enters what the author calls a sharp dart of longing love directed at God. In this state, the ordinary experience of past, present, and future dissolves. The practitioner exists in the eternal moment and is God's own mode of being. St. Augustine had already laid the philosophical groundwork centuries earlier in Book 11 of the Confessions, where he argued that past and future do not exist. Only the present exists. The past is present memory. The future is present expectation. And the present itself is a knife edge that has no duration. Time, Augustine concluded, exists only in the mind, not in external reality. This anticipates the block universe insight that temporal flow is observer-dependent, not a feature of reality itself. The Aboriginal Australian concept of the dream time provides a perspective from an entirely different cultural tradition that converges on the same insight with striking precision. The dream time in Aboriginal understanding is not the past. This is the crucial point that most Western accounts misrepresent. The dream time is not a historical period that ended when ordinary time began. The dream time is not once upon a time. The dream time is the eternal creative present that underlies all of temporal reality. The dream time is now, always now, perpetually now. The ancestral beings who shaped the land and created the species and established the law are not dead. They are not in the past. They are present, active, continuously creating reality in the dream time that coexists with and underlies ordinary time. The dream time is not behind us in the temporal sense. It is beneath us in the ontological sense. It is the deeper layer of reality that ordinary temporal experience rests upon. An Aboriginal elder walking through the landscape is simultaneously walking through the dream time. The landscape is not merely physical terrain, it is a map of the dream time. Every rock, every waterhole, every mountain is a manifestation of ancestral action that is still occurring. The sacred sites, songlines, and ceremonial places are locations where the dream time is especially close to ordinary time, where the eternal present bleeds through the veil of temporal sequence, where the barrier between the timeless depth and the temporal surface becomes thin enough to see through. Ceremony and ritual technologies for accessing this deeper, timeless layer of reality, the stepping out of ordinary sequential time and into the eternal present of the dream time. The dream time is perhaps the closest indigenous analogue to the block universe. All events exist simultaneously. The past, the creation is not over. The ancestral actions that shaped reality are happening now. Always now. Not in a metaphorical sense, in a directly experienced sense that is transmitted through initiation, ceremony, and contemplative practice across at least 60,000 years of continuous cultural tradition. This makes it the oldest continuously held cosmological framework in human history. Older than Hinduism, older than any written text, older than agriculture, and it describes reality in terms that are structurally equivalent to science physics demonstrated in the 20th century. All events coexisting in an eternal structure that the human experience of temporal flow merely moves through without effect. Now, the convergences are remarkable, but I must be honest about the limits. The same caution applies here as applied to the convergences between quantum mechanics, contemplative traditions, the meditator's direct experience of timelessness as a first-class artifact of when the default mode network quiets and the sense of temporal sequence dissolves, the meditator might experience an emotion that feels profound without physics says the same thing. The traditions say the past is not gone and the future is not unborn. The block universe says this universe